to go. Now. All right, I think we are ready to go. Ready to go. Oakley dokley. So it looks like we are now doing a book study on Mystical Kabbalah, chapters 2 through 4, and Initiation into Hermetics, the portion going up to the occult anatomy of the body. What's it? So I guess to kind of get it cracking, did anybody see anything that really stood out to them as really interesting? Anybody want to go first?
Yeah, the anatomy part in the Franz Barton.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to get back with that to understand what's really going on, but it did kind of stick out to me about the body parts.
Yes.
But like I said, I'm gonna have to get back to that.
Can you tell me what page are you talking about with that, with the body parts?
You got
So
the PDF or the book?
The body parts is on page 38 and 39 if you have the book, which it talks about.
Yeah, that's right.
The body.
38, 39, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It says the knowledge of the polar emanation is known in the Hermetic science as the occult anatomy of the body. It is extremely important for every initiate to possess knowledge of the effects of this occult anatomy if he wishes to know, influence, and control his body. So it kind of took me to where first thing came to my mind was when you meditate and you sit down and you observe all parts of your body, but I don't think I got this in depth with it. Like the fingers in the right hand and left hand. I did feet and the chest and the neck and the head, you know, but I didn't do all of these. But that was pretty interesting. So I somehow have to check into that and see what I can come up with.
So the main thing is just to be aware of those right now. It's actually going to go a lot more in depth as we go. But the main thing is just to have a visual, kind of like when we were reading Psychastra and Cyclomancy. It's just to kind of set up a mental picture for you, just to know where to direct your attention. So what he's really setting up in that book is just to get you used to the concept that there's electric and there's magnetic. That everything that has a physical manifestation, and hell, even everything that's mental and spiritual, it's got those two aspects, electric and magnetic, which we know is positive and negative.
Right. I notice he continues to mention that as you go through the book, to kind of get it in your head.
I'm gonna have to mute somebody.
Is that feminine and masculine as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's feminine and masculine. It's also fire and water.
Ah, okay. I noticed that they didn't say anything about like arms and legs, like totally didn't talk about those.
Good
Is
observation.
that like for a reason?
Yes. So mainly the arms and the legs, that falls up under the right side and the left side. So the right side being electric, the left side being magnetic.
Ah, okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Could that also be the pillars?
It can. It can, but yeah. The tree of life, it's also set up that way. The right being masculine, the left being feminine.
Right. Okay.
So it's really setting us up to see the correspondences between everything. Everything.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting about the four elements, and it was talking about fire and water and air. I like how that all connected together. It made sense too.
Yes. Yeah. So Barton and Hermetic, the way that they set up the elements is different from what people traditionally read about on the internet or in books.
Right.
So basically, the way that they set it up is there's only two true elements, which is fire and water. Everything comes out of fire and water. And that's, again, what we're talking about, the electric and the magnetic. Now, just to kind of say what the book says, and then to go off a little bit more to attach it to Kabbalah. The fire principle, the electric principle is the masculine, the water is the feminine. The fire principle talks about expansion and growth and the putting out, the male aspect. The magnetic is the opposite. It's the contraction, it's the pulling in, it's the water, it's the feminine. Now, in order for those things to flow and work together, there has to be a medium, a matrix, and that is the air element, right? So the air element is simply the space in between. When you look at the yin yang symbol, the air element would be the curve of the line that separates the two. Simply the medium for them to coexist. And then the earth element would be the sum total of all the three, but the fact that it creates something additional. So it's not simple. It's kind of like, you know, when the Megazord comes together, it isn't just the T-Rex robot plus the pterodactyl. It's a new thing. So the earth element is that new thing that develops when the previous three elements come together, right?
So it solidifies.
It solidifies and it becomes something different. So that's the key to remember there.
So
And
like the
also-
earth is the actual yin yang.
Well, it actually gives shape as well.
So
And the
connected
earth-
to the yin yang and to connected to the Kabbalah, we're talking about how Kether begins to separate, so-called separate into the other elements. How that how it says the fire and the water are only two true elements. That's really talking about the top triad of the tree of life, Chakra and
Right.
Bina.
Right.
And everything after that is pretty much an illusion. Just like the fire and the water are the only two elements. Everything after that is pretty much characteristics of how they interact. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And that takes everything down into the pyramid form, right?
Yes. And the rest of reality is simply a reflection of what's going on with the interaction of those top three.
Okay.
Oh, that's dope. That's why like the top three, they're facing up, but the bottom, they're facing down because it's like a reflection.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I noticed that
Trav, I got a
the
question.
elements are different than the Ophils. Because the Ophil says like it's Akasha, then it's air, but Fran says it's water. Fire was first. So what's up with that? Do you like what do you think about that?
They're actually talking about the same principle. If you notice in Franz Barton's book in the beginning, he sets it up with the top list. Elemental structure that Ophil uses. The top first.
I had no idea.
I believe air comes right after that. Back it open real quick. Yeah. Ether, fire, air, water. If I'm not mistaken, Ophil had it the same setup. But they're both using the Tatwa system.
Chinese medicine, we have the same system too. I was just reviewing the whole thing over again, and we have the same system. But the one difference is it's that
Make sure you pull out your own grimoire when you get there.
Hey, if you guys are not talking, mute yourself because you can hear all that background noise too.
You're talking about the Chinese system?
Yeah, I was just saying that in the Chinese medicine, we have the same concepts too, with like, you know, with the fire, with earth, water, and air. And we do have in the system that if you have any imbalances on the system, you will have diseases, right? So there is in page 18 what they saying that, you know, if you have any disharmony, I come from actually from your hermetic principles, which is in the page 18. They say that if you have any unbalance in your body or something that is in disharmony, then you will create some kind of diseases. But pretty much in our medicine, if you have any imbalance or any kind of overacting or any deficiency, you will have a specific group of diseases in this medicine. The other thing that I just wanted to add it up, it's like how about how do you call these? Hold on. Like the sympathetics and the parasympathetics, and I think you guys have that in
Yes.
the same page.
Yes.
In science, that's what we call the building for the anabolic pathways, and then catabolism for breaking down. So this is pretty much what you have in your, according to the universal law. Since I study science, so I can tell you that one of the things that you have in page 18 is that according to the universal law, the elements have to perform certain functions inside in our body. That's your page 18. So these are mainly building up the body, keeping it alive, and dissolving it. So for science, it's build them up, we call it anabolism pathway. And for dissolving it, we call it catabolism pathway, which is breakdown. Now, in the other part that I wanted to add it up on this, if we have to add, I'm sorry, a little bit of more information, is that when we take embryology, we have fertilization. So we have stages for the human body. So now we're talking about the bodies. So pretty much what I wanted to add is that in embryology, we were told that we're going to have stages as a fertilization, cleavage, gastrulation, and also blastulation. So those are stages that we have in the human formation for science. I mean, on the Western science. But then we never understood how this process happening. And now that you guys have access to these books, I can tell you that this is pretty much how these processes are happening based on the elements. Because if you think about it, we still need water to survive. We still need heat to maintain our bodies. We still need cold to sustain the temperature of our bodies. And we still need the earth, right? Because we are part of that shape. So it's
Right,
pretty much
right.
fundamental that, I just wanted to add that up. Yeah, I'm done.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
dope.
it does tie into the Chinese medicine aspect because, again, that's where the Tatwa system comes from. It comes from the Orient, Asia. Yeah, it's got a common root there. Interesting.
And that was something that I noted was looking at the elements a little bit more and how that correlates with my writings on the Avatar, The Last Airbender, and how they, mix and intermingle with each other, and that there's like one person who taps into all of them at the same time and uses each one because we're all, we embody all those energies at the same time. It's crazy.
Yes.
So are we
Yes, and that's
practically avatars too?
I have a quick question.
Go ahead.
So with like talking about the avatar and mastering the elements, how does that look like in real life? Is it just understanding, or is it just like, I don't know, engaging yourself? Like, should I just study earth element for like a month and then fire element for a month, or how would that go?
That's actually something that's going to be covered as we go along in this initiation into hermetics. It literally is going to walk you through a 10-step process of how to do that and what it's going to look like. So it's not going to look like the cartoons where you're like waving your hands and like fighting it's going everywhere. But what we're starting to understand is that these elements are not so much the, wait, hold on. I got to meet somebody else. Elements are not like the actual fire and water. What it's actually talking about is there's a force behind these elements, and we are describing the forces. And the easiest way to describe the force of expansion and heat is fire, right? It's not literally fire, but it's an energy behind that. Now, what the book is teaching you is that all four of these elements, they're energies, and they manifest in everything. So like what Kenna said, everything has these elements, but in different degrees, different percentages. And through step 1 and step 2, it's really going to show you the actual techniques of what you need to do to, first off, balance those elements within yourself, and then learn how to cultivate different ones on purpose to do specific things. So what does it look like? It looks like you really being able to, I guess you could say, control synchronicities. It's going to look like you being able to actually use your mind power in such a way as like being able to be telepathic, being able to develop those subtle senses of maneuvering through reality. All the shit that we've been talking about on this channel, all the hot magic cool shit. This book shows you step by step a 10-step process of how you can start to develop it and do it on purpose and understand what you're doing. But it starts with balancing your ego. It starts with taking into consideration your negative and your positive aspects and balancing them so you can have control over the body. And then after you have control of the body, then you gain control over the spirit. And then it continues to expand that way. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. Another note on what he was talking about with the electric fluids and the magnetic fluids. It is kind of vague, but it's not, of course, just like the elements aren't literally the elements, the fluids aren't literally fluids. He's using these terms as a description. The electric and the magnetic fluid, they're called that way because it's describing how those forces move. They're malleable, they're soft, they're unblocked. And what directs the electric and the magnetic fluid is consciousness. So what we're going to be learning in this book is how to focus our consciousness and actually direct these so-called fluids. Because like what we said a little bit earlier, the electric and the magnetic, the fire and the water, it exists in everything, right? So as above, so below. The little bit of the elements that you have inside of you is directly connected to the elements on the outside. Just like what Dion Fortune was saying in her book, the way that man is a reflection of the universe is the same way that you might have a little lake over here, but it's connected underground to the sea, right? So it rains or the moon gets full and the tides rise in the sea, the tides also rise in that little lake. And outside on the surface, you might not see the connection, but you know that there's a connection between. The same water is flowing between both of those things. So what happens on the lower happens on the higher. Now, how do we change? How do we make moves on purpose? How do we do this, that, and a third? It's by focusing our consciousness on these different elements and moving them in a certain way. That's what creates change in the universe because we're creating change in ourselves.
So would it be safe to say that we're talking about currents of energy?
That's exactly.
But they just putting words on it. Okay.
That's exactly what we're talking about. And all this magic and occult stuff, it's different systems of describing currents of energy. Franz Barton and Dion Fortune call them forces. We're dealing with the dance of force and form with this thing. We're dealing with how force becomes form. And by using, like I said, using our consciousness, we can direct what happens with this force or with this form. Another thing to note is that, like I said, the initiation into Hermetics is a 10-step process. Now, I fell up under the trap of being like, oh, I'm gonna take my time and I'm not ready to proceed till I master the first one. It isn't supposed to be done like this. Book is actually supposed to be read kind of like how I've got it set up, where each step should take about a week, maybe 2 weeks. So the whole thing is just understand when we're doing these steps, do them enough so that you understand what's going on. Like we're not trying to master them in a week, but within a week's time, it's just getting used to doing the little exercise. Each one of them is going to build upon the next. So don't feel discouraged if you don't think that you've mastered it yet. Just know what you're doing so that you can proceed. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah, I needed to hear that because that's what I've been doing with some of the work I've been doing, trying to master it. But now that you say that, that make a lot of that makes me feel better right there.
Yeah, Mac
You
G
know.
said here in the chat, a lot of people get stuck on step one. And that's right. I was getting stuck on the early steps when I first cracked this book open 2-3 years ago. But I've since learned Franz Barton says in the book, he wants you to go through this and spend about a week, maybe 2 weeks on each step. Because these are actually exercises you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. So just like you might not be an expert going to the gym and doing these exercises, as long as you know how to do it, you just practice it every time you go, and you get better and you get better and you get better, and these things develop. So don't become a roadblock for yourself is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Does anybody want to share anything from their notes or have any questions so far?
I wanted to just maybe ask, but something really quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
I wanted to, from reading through the information so far, he mentions a lot about the laws, the immutable laws. What about someone who is just a beginning? What importance would you place with like letting someone know that they should at least have a working knowledge of the laws of the universe, the law of correspondence and, so on and so forth, because he continually mentions the laws. You understand what I'm saying? So what importance do you place on someone understanding those laws and going along with the information that's being read?
I put an extremely high importance on those laws. And of course, he's talking about the Kabbalion, the 7 Hermetic Principles.
Right.
And I can say from day one, I've always been saying that book is probably one that you must have in your library for the reason that you just said. Everything is based on basic instruction before leaving Earth, Bible style. But for someone who doesn't understand, these laws aren't based on any type of belief system. It's not based on anything you got to convert to. It's just there's no such thing as common sense anymore, but it's standard understanding of reality. Like what you're saying, cause and effect. Everything you do is going to cause a response. Correspondence, as above, so below. This is why magic works, because of correspondence. Because there's a piece of God in you and there's a piece of man in God. So what you do, how you see reality is how reality is. It is what it is. So these laws are extremely important. So if you want to excel in this science a lot quicker, it would behoove you to also be studying the Kabbalion. But as far as a beginner not knowing, I don't think it'll hinder them as long as they are, not living reckless. Like I said, it should be common sense, but everything can be improved upon with study. But the Kabbalion is where it's at, most definitely.
Yeah. I kind of figured that when I was reading it. You were talking about Kabbalion. I got a question. I'm sure you have. I'm asking myself, which picture of this tree of life should I be meditating on? I got like 6 different ones.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it really matters, but it was just a question.
Honestly, I would get something basic. Did any of those books that you have, does it have the Tree of Life on the cover?
Yeah, and I also got some from the inside. I had like 3. The unfortunate got 2. I think she got 3 of them in hers.
Which book do you have with it on the cover? You've got the Mystical Kabbalah. Do you have any other one?
Let's see. Yeah, I got one in the modern Kabbalah, modern day Kabbalah, and I got one also in the red book, the red and gray. You know which one I'm talking about? The red and gray book. What is it called? I got it put up here somewhere. But it basically
Power Kabbalah by Yehuda
yeah,
Bird.
the power Kabbalah, yeah. So
Now,
I got one with. Go ahead.
this is probably gonna be the best thing for you because it's got the correct colors of the paths, it's got the correct colors of the Sephirah, and it's got the little images inside of them. So having this ingrained into your subconscious, looking at it all the every time, no matter what book I'm studying, I have this one on my desk.
Right.
So this right here is it's gonna be perfect.
Okay.
I would say this would be a great one.
Okay.
As far as a visual. The main thing you want to memorize.
Show it again. I want to see the book again.
The book is Mystical Kabbalah, the one that we're studying. The physical copy.
Oh yeah, I got it. I got the PDF and also the paperback. Yeah.
Yeah, I got a PDF in my.
That's good for reference. But I also use a different I need the colors. The colors will tie you into a lot of the various symbols of the planetary symbol. And when you practice the Kabbalah, it's good to have your own personal symbol that no one else has seen, so you can filter through most of the jargon that you'll get based off of the chi, aka energy, aka Kia, aka chaos energy, because you have to go up against orifices of each of the planets, which is also the dark and negative and the light and positive in every planet that you interface, because you're interacting with your soul. The magical images on those payment on those in the very back tells you about different stuff. There's different stuff and also magical images. You have to interact with each of those images, and each of those images are basically a piece, a minor piece of your subconscious. It's weird because don't forget the society that we live in is majority Roman Catholic, and Roman Catholic has obscured a lot of craziness. That's why the personal sigil is needed. The Roman Catholic, they use chaotic energy, aka demonic entities. We got the same type of energy just because from the glypha, and also the glypha is bits and pieces of the Great Mother in our blood. That's why we have that junk DNA. So it all ties in. It's just very chaotic. The book that Dion Fortune wrote, when she has little pieces of melanin in her being, it did drive her crazy. It did drive her crazy because don't forget, Aleister Crowley followed right behind, doing all this along with the SL Mathers. So all of this stuff is scattered. Make sure you draw your own tree so you can have your own experiences, and also put in as you go along the way the different vowels and syllables that you interact with, because I think I already put it up. It's sacred links. Sacred hyphen links. I put it in the the notes that he verified everybody to join this meeting. I put a link up there talking about all the religions. These are all even LGBT. That's a religion too. That's a way of life. Understand that we're dealing with chaos and reality on different levels. And the races, it does play a little part just because of the melanin, because you're going to be siphoning a lot of chi, aka energy, aka past life souls. So that's very important that you have your own sigil. It's good that Travis gathered all of y'all on this, because it's going to get even crazier. Also, you're going to be coming up against a lot of illuminates. A lot of crazy illuminates, and sometimes they don't know they're illuminates.
All right. Well, I like to keep roughly about 2 hours short, so I want to focus on the book just to make sure everybody's getting their questions answered. Now, as far as like making your own sigils for the tree, you can do that. I'd highly recommend getting a very thorough understanding of the tree of life before attempting to make up something.
Right.
Reason being is because each of these correspondences are here for a reason. Yeah, Crowley definitely kind of lost his mind, but Dion Fortune, she turned out okay. She was fine. She was after him, so she got the lesson of seeing what happened and seeing what not to do.
Trav.
Yeah.
Could I just wanted to hold up a book that may be helpful to people. It's a small book. I had it for a couple of years. It's called Kabbalah, the Hidden.
Oh, that looks nice.
Yo, I had that book.
Who's that by? Who is that one by?
It's by Zev Ben Shimon Halevi. And it actually, because he was mentioning the different forms of the tree. This kind of goes into a lot of the different Hebraic symbolisms of the trees, the different trees of life corresponding to the different elements, the colors, basically all the trees on the multiple levels. And I think it's really good to it's a good reference to give you all the just all the trees and how they correlate to Adam Kadmon and the different Hebrew. I really stress that everybody should be studying their Hebrew, because you really need to vibrate with that language. I just want to show one thing that even what's important. He showed the paintings of Rembrandt, and Rembrandt's paintings were actually hiding the tree of life within Rembrandt's painting. So when you organize or put together his paintings in the form, you actually make the tree of life. So this book, and I'll type it in the chat, the name Kabbalah, Treasure of Hidden Knowledge, and I'll put the author's name. Years ago, I actually stole this book from actually the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut. So, but I'll type in the name. But I overheard what he was saying, and I just wanted to show this book. You definitely want to have this as a part of your library of reference.
Fantastic. I see the author on Amazon, but I don't see that particular book.
Like I said, I had got this from a university. I had got this from university back in the city that I'm in. So I don't know. And this was actually a book that, you know how they hide books in the back of the library that you have to ask for, and they go back there and they get them. So I don't. And it's not a big book. It's it's really thin. It's only like 95 pages, but it gives you all the different ways to really add this up. It's really it's really an awesome book of reference to really have on in your library. To basically, because you're talking about the body, so it's showing you the face of God as it correlates to the Kabbalah and the Hebrew,
yes,
and how they put all of that together. So this is actually a good book, like I said, just to have in your library.
Yeah, bro. If you can, what does the blue lettering say underneath Kabbalah? I couldn't quite see it.
Oh, it says Tradition of Hidden Knowledge.
Tradition of Hidden Knowledge. Oh, I'm gonna find that.
Somebody said you got to photocopy that for us.
Okay. What I do, I'll take a picture of it, and then I'll actually put it on in the Facebook group. But right now, I'll type in the name and the author within the chat.
Great.
That's insane right now.
Travis, I actually do have a question about the mystical Kabbalah.
Yes, I'm ready for it.
It's in the PDF, it's page 19. It's where after she talks about the different worlds, and it's 17 or 19, like how she does her paragraphs and puts numbers, whatever. But I'm gonna read it out loud. It's in the Yetziratic world, the divine emanations manifest not through a single being, but through different types of beings, which are called the angelic host or choirs. What exactly does she mean, like not through a single being? Because I thought that it all was one thing. I thought it was all God, you know?
Right. Right. But just how like we were talking, like how we were talking. Oh, sweet. Who's in this time?
May I interject?
Wait, hold on. Let me answer that question. Just like we were
All right, go
talking about with the triad at the top, how the element begins to split from one and turns into another and turns into another. The tree itself and all the trees, they are one entity. They are one essence. But since we're dealing with existence on multiple planes, it expresses itself in different ways. You feel me? Just like how on
Yeah,
this physical plane, we express ourselves as a physical body, but we also exist in the mental plane and on the astral plane. But it's all part of the same entity. Just like you've got an expression of a hand that does what a hand does, but it's still part of you. So in the world of Yetzirah, which is above the astral plane, it's above the, it's a plane of archetypes. But it's just like the zodiac. They have the 12 different zodiacs, but the sun is in the center of it all. The solar energy expresses through each one of those archetypes. So that's kind of what it means. Does that make sense or not?
Yeah, it makes sense. Okay. It's like it differentiates, kind of like stem cells.
Yes. Same course, just like Akasha. It's the one element, but depending on how much of this or how much of that, it's going to manifest as fire, earth, air, or water. And again, literal fire, earth, air, and water, but the qualities of fire, earth, air, and water, which are heat and expansion, which are coldness and contraction, which are gravity, or which are being a medium for things to interact with. Those are what four elements.
Right.
Okay. Oh, thanks.
Oh, can I interject?
What's up?
Yeah, along about what he was saying. It's just like if you was sitting next to your woman and you think I want some ice. Damn, I want some ice, and you playing a video game. That thought, which starts in the fire, which is above the astral realm, and then it trickles down to the astral realm as air, and then it trickles down to the lower planes as water, and then it trickles down as earth. And then she the emanation is her moving for you because she heard the thought. Thing is as if vice versa. She wants some water or she wants something special from you. It comes to you as an idea, and then it comes to you as a feeling, and then it comes to you as something to say, and then the action.
So it's like the steps.
From a
personal, that definitely does happen.
Yeah, that's how that works. That's sorcery on a higher level.
Oh, cool.
That's why I want to get into this glipper. Oh.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's heavy.
If anybody doesn't have another one, has a question, I have one more on that same page.
Okay.
And it's on the 18. It's because this talks about how it's like 10 mundane chakras, but like, okay, I'm just gonna read the last sentence. These chakras are the premium mobile or first swirling, the sphere of the zodiac, the 7 planets, and the elements taken together, 10 in all. But that's not 10. I don't understand how that's 10.
Yeah.
So
what you did say earlier.
Can I answer it?
Go ahead.
Yeah, it plays the premium mobile. All right. We use the word God. Think of it like this. We use the word God. Why? For almost everything and shit that works around us. Now, when we personify God, it becomes the entity. Now, try to read that again. Read that passage again. Because that's how the premium mobile works. It works on different levels. You get me? Like when you hear the rap song, what is it? It's all about the levels. I forgot what the hell the name rap song is, but When you focus in on the premium mobile, it has its own Sephra. Just like you have your own eternal universe. All you doing is studying the Kabbalah to express it in more in a personified manner. That's why the sigil is important when you interact with these magical images, because you'll get lost like Madonna did with the damn bracelet, the red bracelet, or you get lost in the minutia of the groups instead of having a personified understanding of God. And once you have a personified understanding of God, God becomes whatever your higher self is or your holy guardian angel. You get me?
Mm-hmm.
Then you become, then other people will start trying to emanate you. Shit. You see people wear some of the same shit that you wear, but in a different color. That's how the emanations work. When you do a Maslow meditation or meditate from the ground, from from Kether all the way down to Malkuth, you'll understand this shit even more because you got to go through the ziggurat, aka Maslow, which is the zodiacal dragon. It's an intense meditation. It's better to use words. You can easily move through it. Water meditation will help you a lot because it helps.
Drew, one more thing, dude. When you get up, fix these cushions, dude. You left yesterday. That shit was all fucked up. I had
Hell
to
yeah.
fix it.
That shit was fucked up.
I'm sorry, I forgot.
If I catch it again, I'm gonna
Like
fuck you
that
up.
shit happens a
shit,
lot, dude.
B.
You forget a lot of
You know?
shit, man. And I'm
Ain't
getting
right.
tired of having to go
And I don't play that
like
shit.
that shit.
I know you
Like,
thought I
for real,
was.
bro. Like,
I ain't one of your
Tell 'em.
friends. I ain't one of your little friends. Now, I had to put it down like that. Yeah, that was a good answer. And also, she does answer that question in 13. It's one it's one of those little one of those
Sorry
traps
about
that you
that.
find in grimoires. Where, like they answer the question, but they like flip it around. If you look in 13, she talks about how the 32 paths are actually the 12 signs, the 7 planets, the 4 elements. But the thing is, you don't include Earth because Earth is the physical plane. That's where we are. So he's talking about the 10 mundane chakras. To do that is look here on the cover of the book. All right. So what's going on is that in the last sentence, she says, these chakras are the premium mobile of the first swirlings, which is chakma right here. And then she said, the sphere of the zodiac is the same thing. The 7 planets, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because remember, we don't include Earth. And then she also said the 4 elements. So the key here is that she's talking about the chakra. Now, if you notice, there's a picture of a dude's head right here, which lines it up with the body, which means that you don't count these as 2, you count them as 1. So here's what we got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, plus the 4, which makes 10. That's what she's talking about.
Okay. It totally makes sense now.
That's the thing about these occult books. You got to look because they give you the answer without giving you the answer. And she's repeatedly telling you through those chapters that we just read that she can't explicitly divulge what she's saying, but she is going to still tell you because the information you can easily find somewhere else. Because she wasn't part of the society, she has to kind of word it in such a way, which is why we're going through this as a group.
That's the understanding of your side. You just explained it through the understanding of your side. The breakdown of symbols and the usage of math is the understanding of symbols and letters.
Yes.
Cool. Well, thank you for the clarification, the answer.
Okay.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Okay, I'm not on my phone in the truck. I'm at home on my little desktop thing. I just wanted to say something real.
That's why it's loud and clear, I guess.
Okay, yeah, it sure is. No, I wanted to stress one of the things that she had talked about, which was the fact of how this information isn't really lost. And I think that's very important, especially when it comes to understanding that these books that we read and stuff like that, and all these different symbols, the information is never lost. when I was in E5, I had asked the Babalawo that there was a lot of people, young people who weren't getting into E5, and they were going into a lot of modern stuff. And I had asked him, I said, you know, none of these old Babalawos and stuff like that are passing down the knowledge of E5. And what's going to happen? Wouldn't that information be lost? And he was like, no, basically none of the information is lost. They have ways of being able to basically pull back up some of the odus and the stories and the different ebos and prescriptions that go along with them, even if the Babalawo isn't actually, you know, actively conscious of it. And so when I was reading that, it reminded me of that whole aspect of the Akasha and how nothing is ever lost. And that's one of the things that I'm beginning to appreciate about the Kabbalah and this whole system, especially for us over here in the West, because even though we can deal with a lot of the Eastern traditions and stuff like that, like she said, it's all fine and dandy, but sometimes too, you have your own system over here that we can utilize to at least give us a foundation to build upon other concepts or understanding all those other concepts and being able to bring those things together. And so out of all that, that's actually what kind of stood out to me a lot in this first parts of the book is how that the Kabbalah is continuously growing, and it grows with our experience. And through our experience, we're able to be able to piece together even more deeper understandings of those same concepts that we already study on. So it's a really good find. I think it was kind of the same point you was trying to get across to Mike when we was on those Thursday night calls as well, because she even said like the new thought will get you to a certain level, but this understanding of this will help you to be able to piece together everything outside of this sun. You know what I'm saying? Because you know the Bible says nothing new under the sun. Well, we talked about this on Thursday that it's kind of like almost like a limit here. There's only so much you can do. The new thought helps you deal with basically Malkuth. It doesn't give you any instruction or even talk about things that are above, you know, the sun and really everything that deals with Malkuth. So I just wanted to chime in on that and stress that importance of what we're dealing with here is something ever growing, but it's a key foundation that dates back to, you know, I don't know who the hell it dates back to, but it's been working for a long time.
Right. It's been working for a long time without our help. I appreciate that.
Exactly.
Like you said, that key word, there's nothing new under the sun. Even that relates to Kabbalah, because we're talking about the sun here, Tifereth. And of course, this is for the people who aren't on the Thursday night calls. Tifereth is the higher self. And she even talks about in this book on the chapters that we read that you've got to make the higher self the ruler of your personal universe. Otherwise, all of these other elements and spheres are going to be at war for control. That's why I've always preached you need to be in control of your emotions, because at any given time, however your little funky feelings are going to be, you're under control of one of these different spheres. You're under control of an imbalanced energy. So you have to be centered. It will behoove you to work on getting more in touch with your higher self. And that's why we're reading Initiation into Hermetics, because when we get to the portion on the magic mirrors, this is when you start to balance your astral energy. How? And detail all your personal negative qualities and all your personal positive qualities. We're going to work on balancing those. That is the key to expanding beyond these astral planes. What holds people down and what blocks people is wrong thinking, illusion-based thinking, and illusion-based feelings, which is essentially trauma. Now, anybody can deal with these things. You don't have to pay thousands of dollars at a psychiatrist. You just have to be sincere about wanting to deal with these things. But yeah, nothing new under the sun, because the sun rules everything in the physical plane.
I got a quick question. This is a yes or no answer. Higher self, is that also your holy guardian angel?
Absolutely.
Okay, I just want to make sure
That's
it
what they're
wasn't.
referring to. And they make a huge deal about contacting this holy guardian angel, because it takes a lot of preparation to effectively get in contact with it. But see, that again, that's why I said we're dealing with this Franz Barton stuff, because his whole process with the magic mirrors is shadow work, right?
Mhm.
That's why shadow work is so important. It's not just, I mean, it is a trend now because everyone wants to make a video about it, but actually doing the shadow work is one of the things that's going to remove illusion-based thinking. It's going to help remove illusion-based emotions. And these are the things that tie you down in illusion. It's real easy.
Okay.
It's real simple. You just have to be honest. You just got to be honest. It's only hard when you're fighting against looking in the mirror. Most people cannot do it.
Right.
Most people choose not to do it. I'll put it that way. I love it.
Can I just briefly piggyback off of what's been said? I had to run and get the door, so I may have missed a couple of bits. Did anyone talk about the illustration of the man's soul like a lagoon?
Yes, I love that part.
That was my favorite part because I used to stress myself out with divination, and it was only because I was trying to connect with information that was beyond my scope where I was. So the way she describes it as being basically man's soul is like a lagoon connected with the sea by a submerged channel. Although to all outward seeming, it is landlocked. Nevertheless, its water level rises and falls with the tides of the sea because of the hidden connection. So it is with human consciousness. So
Yeah.
when we
Chapter
achieve
3,
the
verse
right
15.
level of depth, or basically when we tune into the right station, it's like all the information just pours into us. And it doesn't have to be something that we can make sense of on, I guess, a human or a 3D perspective, because as Mike said, we're already connected. It's just a matter of how we're tuning into it. And then that also brings us to the importance of achieving balance and mastery of our perspectives, because all of that information at once can really take us to some places that might get us locked up. So I did appreciate that. That was on page 17, paragraph 15.
Yeah. Verse 15 on chapter 3. That's probably one of my most favorite parts of that chapter there. Progress is not made from someone who jumps from system to system. Progress is made when you stick to a system and carry it out. Each system has its own value, but it must be carried out to the end. The value isn't in the exercises, but it's in the powers that will be developed if they're persevered with. So all these cities, all these magic abilities, the psychic influence and all that good shit, it happens if you stick through the process. Most people throw this stuff away or don't get anywhere because they either don't stick with it or they're jumping from this to that. Oh, I want to sample some of this. This week I'm doing Goetia. Oh, this week I'm doing tarot. Or this week, now I'm Ifa. This week, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm just working with, you know what I'm saying?
Dabblers.
It's okay to learn these things.
That sounds like a dabbler. That's dangerous.
Exactly.
Shades start chasing you after all of that because you exude light when you do these things.
It's not focused. It's not concentrated. You're not getting anywhere. But when you pick one and you stick with it and you begin to work out these processes, it's like exercising. You know what I'm saying? You develop these senses to the point where your laser is now focused. Then you add on to it. You feel me? Then you add on to it.
And
Learn
it
about
goes back
everything,
to
collect
what
your
you're saying.
correspondences.
Oh, it
Yeah,
goes
go
back to what you're saying before. Like, you know, when you stick with something, all the experiences, all the psychic telekinesis, power kinesis, all that stuff is going to be a byproduct of what you've been wanting to work if you just stick through it and, you know, follow it all the way through.
Yes.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
Everybody played Final Fantasy before or some RPG role-playing game. The more you do something, like do a fire spell is level 1. The more you do it, you got to build the experience for using the fire spell faster. When you get to a level 2, you still got to keep on doing so you can get the Faraga.
Yeah.
You know, the Fura. Level 2. Faraga comes level 3. Faraga is just a big ass explosion of fire. That means you worked real hard to get that level 3 Faraga.
Yeah.
And then you got level 4. That's summoning something. Using the fire element or whatever element you choose. You know that you gotta keep at it. It's just like a muscle. The more you work at it, the stronger it becomes. So it could be yours. Hence the reason for the sigil, which connects you to your higher guardian angel. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like you said, it's a muscle. She literally says in this book, the magical systems are the calisthenics of consciousness, right? They gradually develop the powers of mind. It's like an exercise. It really is. So people who don't see results, it's either because they're jumping around too much or they're not sticking with it.
I was there one time.
Yeah, I mean, that was all of us.
I'm sure a lot of us were.
I said, I've been doing this for 20 years. How come I'm just now getting this shit, right? Because we all have to go through that process of being wandering in the dark, being lost. But that's good.
Right.
Because it builds experience.
Hey, Travis. It's your boy Jay.
Oh shit, what's up, bro?
What's good? I haven't got the book yet. It's about to be delivered in like a week or so, both of them. The other videos are up, like on the membership page. Like, I don't know if you guys did this already, like chapter 1 or.
Yeah, this is the second one. It's up on the YouTube here. I'll link it to you.
All right, that. Good luck.
This one's gonna be there also.
All right.
Nice. All right, everybody, unboxing time. Unboxing.
Amazon.
Oh my god. 100 unicorn pins.
Yo, you are funny as hell, bro. Oh my god.
Fantastic.
Can you see me?
Nice.
They sell those things at the truck stop, man.
Yeah.
I be thinking about getting them, man.
Yo, get them. They're like we've been talking about. They're all symbols to something.
Yeah. I know they sell those little during like Mother's Day, they have those crystal, little figurines and stuff, that they always come out with. They like clear and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I always see the unicorn and stuff, and I'll be thinking about getting it.
I think the unicorn is connected to the mother. So maybe that's why they have it on Mother's Day.
I see it's connected to Akasha. But then again, Akasha's pretty androgynous.
Yo, Trev, could we break down the 4 worlds that is in the Kabbalah? And they start on page 22, verse 14, and all these different worlds. I'm getting a little tripped up by like understanding all that in the Sephirah and how am I supposed to picture that in the brain cells?
Don't do the brain. Don't do the brain. Do the body, because the body is divine. You have ears ever ring? I'm sorry, Travis, to take it over. The body. That's why they all. Whenever you look up the tree of life, and there's sometimes a body that you see with the different sephira. The left ear represents Saturn, Binah. The right ear represents Chakma. And the what is it? The third eye or the forehead representing Kether. Think of it like that. The fire of the mind. You see these people out here wearing these red mega hats. Come on, fire of the mind. They always angry looking. Don't they look all angry? I'm just trying to match the lesson with the time. Sorry.
No, that works.
Hey, did you get was you on the live Thursday?
Me, I wasn't.
Kena?
I missed last Thursday. I was coming
Okay,
back
I
into
got
town.
I got a good book I ran across to help you understand stuff better. It got the 4 worlds in it. It got a little small description. It's called Foundations of Practical Magic by Israel Regardie.
Oh
Introductory.
yeah, I read that.
That's a good
That's
book,
just
man, for you to
that
get,
helps you
man. It
with your
help you.
perception. I think there's a chapter in there where help you define the fingers and connect it to the Sephiroth based off of meditation. It's it's like an active meditation. I think it's in that book. The practical
What's it called
usage.
again?
It's called
Foundations of
Foundations of Practical Magic and Introduction to Kabbalistic Magic and Meditative Techniques, Israel Regardie. It's really good, man. It breaks stuff all the way down, and it's been helping me
Right.
with this Kabbalah and stuff, man. Like
Did you
I
ever
would
come
recommend
across
everybody get that book.
You ever
I'll
come
take a
across
look at it.
on that chapter in the book, Travis? It's a
What's
part
that?
where it breaks down the fingers and it explains each finger as being the Sephirah. I think I took it from that book. I got it in my own grimoire. Oh my God. That book is old. That came out in the 70s, didn't it?
Which one?
That the book that he's talking about, Zongo is talking about.
Foundation of Practical, the Israel Regardie book that I was telling you guys about. Yeah, it is an old book.
Yeah. And oh my God.
So Kina,
That's
I
transcendental. That's
wanted to
a
grab
form
some of
of
my other notes to answer your question about these 4 worlds here. So
Uh-huh.
in these 4 worlds, they do relate to a different element. Anything dealing with 4 is going to deal with elements, right?
Exactly.
But it also correlates to Yod He Vav He, the Tetragrammaton. Now, the way that they're actually stacked up looks like this. They're actually stacked on top of each other. But when we're looking at the simple one, you see how it relates to the bigger one there?
Yeah.
So the Malkuth of this higher world is actually the Kether of the one beneath it. And when you do it in this way, you get more specific with how each one of the elements operate within each one of those Sephirah spheres. Yeah, it gets more detailed, more complex. That's the whole reason for it. But
So within these
also,
worlds are their own, trees of life within that. Is that what you?
I mean, it's essentially unlimited because even beneath the one that we have at the bottom, there's the clip off. So really there's 5, right?
Yeah, okay.
So anything dealing with 4 is actually the 4 elements, and there's always a hidden 5th one.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as the tree that we're in, the Asaya tree, that one, that whole tree is in Malkuth. The whole thing is in Malkuth. And yeah, you might have the notes that I posted on Instagram from this.
Now, oh my God, the meditation for the ziggurat, you had to go through for men it should start from the top. For women it should start from the bottom. Because of the negative and positive polarities. The woman comes into understanding the light even more at a better paradigm. She becomes crowned at the top. As the man, he has to work from Kether down to Malkuth because he has to reach he has to ground his spirit. He has to understand his spirit from all these other Sephirah. It's wild. But that's further down the book. Related to the second one, which is air, we already in it right now. The air that you breathe and is coming from the sun. That's solar wind. If it's nighttime, that's lunar wind. Now you could differentiate between those two just by the psychic energy, the magnetism that you feel emanating around your body. That's the understanding of it. That's the that's actually part of the what is that air called? I forgot. What is it called? From the Kabbalah?
The Yetzirah realm?
Yeah, the Yetzirah. That's why you feel all this solar energy. But it's really a mixture of damn, what's it? It's a mixture of chesed and a mixture of what is it? What's for the Mars? I don't know. Yeah, Gabura. That's why your body heats up, and also you get the psychic energy from chesed. That's why it's better to study at night or during 12 o'clock, the witching hour, because you got spirits loose, you got all types of angels loose. They fighting amongst each other. Hence the reason why if there's a full moon, you get a lot of people either aroused, highly aggressive, because don't forget, the moon is the center of the universe, or basically everyone's fucking thoughts.
Right. So
It's
I like to really
crazy.
keep things. I like to keep things as balanced as possible. You know, as far as like we have the world of cause and the world of many, many, many worlds of effect. So hopefully, those of us that are in this group who are you know, been studying and watching my videos and whatnot have removed themselves somewhat from the wide world of effect that all these basic people are going through, and moving more towards the world of cause. Now, people that are really, really stuck deep in the world of effect, they have no control of their lives. Every little influence that comes across their eyes, they follow it without question. So in reclaiming your own power, what we're actually doing is moving closer to cause and less towards effect. And as we move closer to cause, a lot of these things don't affect us the same way anymore. So even though we do have a full moon and it's causing a lot of madness, it's mainly affecting people who are deeply rooted in the world of cause. For some people, like say myself, the more close that you are to the realm of cause, you're out here doing shit every single day. Nothing's different. I don't care if cities are burning down and looters and protesters and police and shit. This is the same shit every day. When you see it from a higher level, you see the same energies playing out. This is what Kabbalah gets to here. These 10 energies are the same energies, just in different. You're able to see it like that. You're no longer in the world of effect, and you're no longer being affected by these things unless you want to be. But mostly you're in the realm of cause. The whole reason this stuff is happening is because more of us are having this ability of cause. Power is shifting, literally. This may seem like just, you know, some little interesting stuff that we're studying here, but this is what runs the world, literally. You may get to this level and see that for yourself. You may not. But my job here is to really help you get as clear as possible without any confusion type shit going on.
That makes that makes perfect sense. That everything mirrors everything else, like in the Kemetic tree of life, or what's called the Pout and the Tiru. Geb mirrors Amen. Amen is the subjective realm, or the realm of undifferentiated energy. There is no form. Consciousness of consciousness. Geb is, as in the Hebraic trees, called the earth, Malkuth. Geb is the physical compounds, but he also has two other divisions, 6th and 7th divisions, called the Kaibit, which is basically the electromagnetic forces and the atoms and the protons and stuff like that. So Geb is nothing but a mirror of Amen, and Aset in the Kemetic tree is a mirror of Asar, and Asar is a mirror of Aset. Like the other brother was saying, that man, he has to go from his tree from top to bottom, and women must go. But in the Kemetic tree of life, everybody must go from the bottom up, because we're at the lowest level of densification. We're in the physical matter. So we're all now caught up in our what's called the Sahu man. The Sahu man is the realm of your sensual or emotional passions. So you have to get rid of that and go back through, as Trav was saying earlier, through Tippura, which on the Kemetic tree of life is represented through the sixth sphere, which is Heru. and Heru represents your free will, but it's not free will, as we've been taught in the Western society, because your will actually has no power. The free will is basically your circumspective thinking. The free will is what keeps you, which keeps the Sahu man, or what's called the lower level of yourself, from entering the higher realms. The lower level of yourself is represented on the Kemetic tree of life by Auset, Het Heru, and Sebek. Those, and Het Heru represents your right side of your brain, and Sebek represents your left side. So that's eternity and reverberation. So your higher consciousness is represented by Asar, Tahuti, and Sekur. So Heru separates the lower level from entering into the higher realms. But then somebody else had mentioned that you have other chakras or other energies that operate in between. So in between, on the Hebraic tree of life, you would have Tefera, but above Tefera, you have the Ruach Kodesh, or the Da'at, or or the Holy of Holies, or the Da'at, or the Duat. In the Kemetic system, or in the chakra, you have the heart chakra, which is the Anahata, but you also have the Hrit chakra, which nobody really talks about. So the Anahata only deals with our physical love, or what we think we love. I love myself, I love my wife, I love this. But actually, true love is an expression that comes from the divine, which is called the Harit, or I forgot what the Hebraic term, Hava Lehava, or something like that. But but I just wanted to parallel that, because everybody is basically hitting all the right points. Like you said, by studying Dion Fortune's book, and studying I forgot the title of the other book we studying. That right there within itself is a parallel. You have to study the actions of the body, and you have to also study the actions of the mind, because we live in the objective world. So we have to know what happens in the subjective world, or what's called we're in the phenomenal plane, and then you have the nominal plane. So we're just at the lowest level of densification. So we've actually, as the Bible said, we fell from grace, and they knew they were naked. So when you understand those things, you go back and you read Genesis, you'll understand that that's talking about the Kabbalah, and it's also talking about the five senses. That's why they saw that the tree was good for fruit, and it was good to eat. So that's talking about with the sight. And then Adam, all of a sudden, he hears God walking in the garden. So now he has sound. And then God questions him and asks, well, who told you that you were naked? So now and then you got this serpent character, which is basically the Kundalini awakening. And that's why it happened with the woman, because the woman is the primordial. So it's a whole bunch of things. So to study all of that together brings our reality. And like Trav said, all of this other stuff that's happening with the riots, and of course it's tragic, but you watch someone murdered. That's supposed to happen, because Earth is a death planet. We come here to experience pain. We come here to experience the dying, or the retransformation of what we've become objective, or the breath of God, or whatever, all the fancy words that they, so.
Yeah. So do we need to detach then, huh? To get to the higher
have to
self?
Detach. You are not your emotions. You are the energy perceiving the emotion. You are not your body. You're not your clothes. You're not who your mother named you. Those are just things that those are personas. Those are characteristics that we take. So if we look at, that's why they call it a person or a persona. We're basically a vessel for sound. That's why in the beginning was the word, and the word was with God. You have to use the word. The word is the vibratory pattern that you speak. Energy only speaks to energy in wavelengths and vibrations. So you have to say Elohim, Yahweh, and Ram, Krim, Shem, Ram, because that right there speeds up your atomic energy on as we said, the fire is electro energy, a fluid, and the water is magnetic. So now when you in your physical self, which is earth, that's the electric, the neutral, the magnetic, which is electromagnetic force. So you can't vibrate just being physical by thinking, just sitting there thinking like, oh man, this is you have to actually go back to the ancient ways. That's why you have to basically study old languages like Sanskrit, Hebrew. Well, basically those two are the main ones. So they knew what they were doing once they changed this to English, because the language that we speak was actually a hidden, dumbed down language back in the old European days to hide alchemy and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Because they didn't, they couldn't give that to what's called the profane. So we just, it's good that we're coming back into this. So actually what we are, once you begin to study yourself, you can actually become at least a Crawley if you want to. You can be Dion Fortune if you want to, because you can just vibrate the energetic force of those individuals and become them in 2020. You can be Eliphas Levi. That's why that's why they trick us with the whole color thing too. They want white people to be mad at black people. They want black people to be mad at white people. And of course we know there's a reality to shit, but that's just, once you look at it from an occultic perspective, there is no good, there is no bad, there is no bad, there is no right. It is what it is. That's just natural law. You're not supposed to like. The lion will never love a hyena. A hyena will never love the lion. Their natural law is to be destructive to each other, as we call it, destructive. But it is what it is. As above, so below. So once you become more connected with the undifferentiated energy, you're not human. You are basically incomprehensible. So all we do as humans is we try to, because we're not a creative force, we're just a human that has we have the elements of the creative force, but in our human ebb or Malkuth thinking brain, we want to define things because we want to understand, because that's left brain activity, which is the Kemetic tree. That's Sebek. Sebekian is logical. That's what Dr. Spock and Captain Kirk represented it. So when you start becoming occultic, you'll start seeing Captain Kirk was a left brain, right brain thinker. Dr. Spock was all left brain. That's not all logical, Captain. He wasn't emotional. He had no emotion.
Right.
Captain Kirk was gonna put it down on the women, and he was gonna put it on your ass when when it came down to it. So I didn't mean to be long-winded, but I just wanted to marry all of everything. It's like a patchwork blanket. All of this is nothing but a patchwork blanket. You know what I'm saying?
Dope.
That's perfect, bro. That's perfect. I really like what you said about the Adam and Eve part. That's something I have not heard yet, and I think that really shed some light on it. How that whole
That's what it is. It's a Kabbalistic story. It's nothing but it's just an alchemical story.
Yeah.
Can you can you go a little deeper on that Adam and Eve mixed with the Kabbalah story for me?
Well, that's why they weren't supposed to eat from the tree of life. They wasn't supposed to eat. There was two trees in the midst of the garden. And then when you study the word midst, That means in the middle. So that's all talking about the center of self, or the center of your consciousness, or basically how we call it now, the pineal gland. So when you look at the story of Adam and Eve, there was no physical people like that. Those were teaching stories to tell you about your inner faculties. So Adam, as he was formed from the dust of the ground, and then it said God breathed into the nostrils of man, he became a living soul. That's air, and that's well, first it's ether, and then it's also fire. So now and then it's also the dust represents what? That represents earth. And then it said that man shouldn't be alone. So now he has to have woman. So now you're talking about the law of correspondence. So now he has to have a balance. Man is not balanced by himself. He has to have a female correspondent to himself. So now this God, who in the beginning, he moved across the face of the waters and all of that type of stuff. All of that stuff is symbolic language. You know, where was God? If you look at it from just a basic thinking, where was this entity called God existing at when he thought about saying, okay, let there be light? So you can ask a pastor, where was God at? If there was nothing created, he was in the undifferentiated world. That's why we all say in Christians, amen, after they pray, because amen is the undifferentiated world of formlessness. So now when you get to Adam and Eve, that's God wanting to, or in the Kemetic tradition, Atum, two stories. He issued spit from his mouth, and then he became the one who became two, the two who became three, the three who became four, the four who became five. That's talking about the Kabbalah within itself. So then, so it's just, it just goes. So Adam and Eve represent
Chakma and Bina.
Masculine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's all in there. When you look at the trick, that's why modern Christians, and especially in the Black church, they don't mess with the Old Testament no more. See, they only deal with the New Testament, because it was actually the Bible is actually a coded book that's basically one of the greatest grimoires ever written. You understand what I'm saying? So the whole thing is the New Testament is talking about binding. It's talking about giving up the divinity of yourself, giving your power to someone else. That's why you had to go through an intermediary. So in the Old Testament, they was talking directly to God. They didn't, they went straight to him. Now they got this New Testament, and the multiple councils, who were basically wizards within them. They were magicians. Anybody who in these ancient priesthoods, whether they're the Jesuits or the Council of Nicaeas and stuff like that, those are bishops and popes. Those people are magicians. They are the magus. You know what I mean? So they were ones who knew to take the Dead Sea Scrolls and be like, no, we're not gonna put that in there because we don't want them to realize that they are the Christos, or the activated power of consciousness that can manifest whatever they want. So, you know what I mean? So that's just basically what it is. So now you got us, we are right now the modern day alchemists. We are the modern day Knights Templars. We would for gathering right now in back in the 1300s, we would be killed for this right here. Especially Travis. They would have massacred him first. You know what I'm saying? They're going to kill me. So that's basically the whole thing. They don't want us to know this. So the actual, and Travis made a good point where he said that that everything basically moves in cycles, and where we're at right now, we're in this awakened cycle of consciousness. This is why we're studying this, because everything moves in a wave. So now it goes downward. And then when you apply that to like ancient African cultures or what they want to call the Moors and all of this stuff, they are in the Comedics, they already knew that their kingdoms were going to go on a downward spiral. So that's why they started carving stuff all over the place. That's why they started burying themselves with that stuff, because they knew that people were going to have to rediscover who they actually were in these times, because they were oracles.
Right.
They already knew what was going to happen in 2020. All of this stuff is already written.
And furthermore, you're right, it was already written. And this shit is written in the stars. These people knew the science of the stars. See, that's the thing about astrology and planets. You got basic ass people, oh, I don't believe in astrology. It's nothing to believe in, bro. It's literally a silent science. The stars move at a planned position. Now, it's not that Pluto is doing something funky. It's just a representation of the energy behind it. So these ancient people understood the language of this energy. And this is how you're able to predict the future and tell what time it is and tell this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And that's how you can tell, you know what? Our civilization is about to go through a long sleep.
Exactly.
1,000 years to write and to carve and to do this, that, and the third, and get ready, because it's going to be hell. But come 2020, et cetera, we're going to hit that age of Aquarius and it's going to be back on and popping. So yeah, it's nothing to be sad about, nothing to be mad about. Ain't no enemy to fight. This shit is all planned out. We're all
you are the enemy. You're actually you're fighting yourself, like the brother said earlier. Basically, when it turns nighttime or when you go to sleep, that's representative of the underworld. You are going into Amenti. You go in there to judge yourself. You go into the sleep realm. Well, first you go in there to recharge your chi, which in the Egyptian culture was called Ra, and the Dravidian culture is called Prana, and Chinese culture is called Ki. So the whole thing is when you fight against yourself, you're fighting the forces of what's called dark and the forces that's called light. And what's fighting is you're trying to balance out the daytime of all this sensual shit that's been coming at you, bombarding you with. Oh, they burned down the Popeyes today, and all this here, and then they give you all of these commercials on Hulu.
Guess what?
Every commercial on medication and heart attack pills and everything. So now you start thinking like, well, damn, I do be having chest pains. I wonder, do I suffer from? So that right there, they bombard us. So now when you go into your theta waves and your delta wave sleep, to go into or what's called your REM sleep and your non-REM sleep, that's when your subconsciousness tries to balance this stuff out to make you reawaken to your true self, because you're actually dead when you go into non-REM sleep. Your pulse and your heartbeat and your breathing actually slows down one step below a doctor pronouncing you basically dead. So you are in the realm of death during those times. So like I said, wizards, it's no different how we are, whatever we want to label ourselves. We're trying to regain our divine consciousness so we can manipulate the elements here on the planet. And the elements basically are your mental and spiritual and physical atmospheres, So the whole thing is you have other wizards that know how to manipulate these elements through the mind, or mind magic and mind manipulation. So they keep bombarding your grandmother with the fucking news all day, because they know she don't do nothing but sit there and waiting for that, because they was raised on Ted Koppel and all of that type of shit. So you know what I mean? So that's how they get us stuck here in Malkuth or Gab or whatever, we want to label it. So, hopefully I ain't mean to I can be long-winded. I apologize.
Yeah, but the thing is, you were speaking some relevant info. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I especially enjoy the Adam and Eve part because that's quite relevant to the tree. But everything you said is spot on, bro. Everything you said is spot on.
See, and that's why they use that against us too. That's why they have You know, that's why they made it a war. See, Hitler, and I'm not, you know, anybody who was a, you know, of a you know, Jewish culture, I don't bring him up in any disrespect, but it really is what it is. Hitler already knew that the quote unquote Khazarians who were going into this religion were only going into this religion because it has spiritual and magical powers that are attached to it. So Hitler wasn't really fighting a war, just massacring people. He was actually fighting a magic war. That's why he had the Third Reich. The Third Reich were actually his spiritual powers fighting against the Hebraic powers for world domination. You know, and basically off of that, that's where we get Star Wars from. You know,
we ain't ready for that conversation, bro. We're not ready for that conversation. We still in our emotions here.
That's a whole nother thing.
Baby steps, baby steps.
Trying to help people detach from their emotions. We still in emotions.
Dragons of the sky and dragons of the earth.
How you think these Germans are so had all these weapons and fighter jets? They had a stealth bomber in the 30s. Where do you think they get this? They were traveling. They were traveling through time. They were using portals. They were chanting and stuff like that. You go to New York City, whenever the Hasidic Jewish community buys property, do you know what they do? They walk around. They have specific priest groups in the Hasidic community that walk around the whole blocks that they purchase, and they chant particular words to bind in those neighborhoods. That's why nobody goes into their neighborhood. The police aren't allowed to come over there to police. Whatever color you are can't go over there and open a business because they've actually put magic spells.
That's the dragons of the earth. The dragons of the earth. Watch on the anime X. X. If you look at X, it's a fight between the dragons of the earth and dragons of the sky. You just watch the whole anime. You'll understand about what's going on. It's been happening for millennia. Even the book that we read and talks about it. The tug of war upon spiritual energies using all of this.
And that goes back to the earth, air, fire, and waters. It's constriction, and it's the pulling, and it's the giving, or the ebb and the flow. You know, it's just like you know, Masons. You know, when beginning degree, if you ever give, that's why it was all about the word, and they killed the symbolic Hiram Abiff to give up the word, or basically the hidden name of God, so they can have communication with him, so they can become master masons or architects of the universe. So when you give up that word to someone that's profane, you're to have your throat cut and your tongue pulled out and thrown over your shoulder into the deepest part of the water, where the water just don't be water, it has to ebb and flow. So it's all about vibration. It's like them unicorns Travis got. They look happy, they colorful, but look at on their foreheads. Those things are stabbed straight through you, man. You know what I'm saying? Unicorns are dangerous things.
Very much so. If you look at the legend, it wasn't My Little Pony. They pretty much killed anybody that came around them. The only people they didn't kill were people who were pure of heart, virgin. And the king would send them out there to trick them so that they could use them as weapons.
And they mention unicorns in the Bible. You know, why don't the pastor should preach from that verse and unicorns? You know what I mean? So
I will in my church.
I have another question to bring it more to the physical. So, like with baths, meditation, certain techniques, what will help you to reach that divinity or that connection with your higher self?
So what's really cool about initiation into Hermetics is that, like I said, it's going to walk you through 10 steps of learning how to work with your energy bodies. And the way that it's going to work is it's going to walk you through different practices on the physical level, on the mental level, and on the astral level. So on actually step one, we're going to go through the process of learning how to, it's called magical impregnation of water, essentially. And this is where you learn to fully charge water with your intent. Now, it's nothing different from people that, praying over their food, but the difference is you're intentionally putting a specific kind of energy on that water. And you're going to practice doing this until the point where you start to notice effects. Yeah, these baths really work. It's not the herbs you put in it. It's not the little crystal you put on the side of the bathtub on top of the toilet. It's the intention behind doing these actions. Most definitely. And then if you're building up your astral body along with it, there you go. Yep, crystals, right? The crystals hold the intent. It's the crystals. But the more that you work on strengthening your astral body, doing these type of things become even more effective. It's the quality, not the quantity.
I have a question. It deals with the mystical Kabbalah.
Yes.
And it's chapter 3, verse 13. And I hope it'll make sense when I ask the question, because I don't exactly know how to really form it. But it's the symbol of the tree is to the universal mind what the dream is to the individual ego. It is a glyph synthesized from subconsciousness to represent the hidden forces.
Yes.
So does that mean I'm able to really get something from that? Should I be staring at the glyph for 30 minutes every day or something to get? No? Okay.
Not
Because I know
necessarily.
the dream.
It can help, but not necessarily. If we look back to what she actually said in chapter 1, let me find it. Well, I don't remember what verse it was. I'll find it in a second. But if we look back, she was talking about how when you look at a sigil, you don't have to know the history behind it. If you meditate upon it, you can tap into the energy behind it. You remember that part? Here it goes.
Yeah, because it's like your past lives kind of.
Chapter 1, verse 15. And it's not specifically past lives, but it's the fact that there is, hold on, let me see it here.
It's at the bottom of the page.
It is well known to mystics that if a man meditates upon a symbol around which certain ideas have been associated by past meditation, he will obtain access to those ideas, even if the glyph has never been elucidated to him. And this is the same reason why the Goetia work. This is the same reason why any sigil works. Because what you're doing with your emotions and your intentions when you're programming a sigil correctly, you're building a body of force around that sigil. So it doesn't matter that you don't know the meaning behind my sigil. If I put it on a screen and you see it, a certain level of you is able to tap into it. You feel
That's
me?
the understanding of path. Yeah, the pathway of path. Occult paradigms and the understanding of the parasympathetic nervous system using symbols. Yay, the pathway of path. The two.
So when you're looking at verse 13 here that you asked the question about, it says that these images are not randomly evolved, but follow along well-defined association tracks. It's talking about etheric patterns. Like I said, as far as meditating on a sigil, when you're building these sigils, you're putting certain ideas around them. Now, likewise, how many people you think have meditated on this sigil for the past thousands of years, right? This is why these things work, because there's so much energy built up around it. All we're doing is accessing it. So the symbol of the tree of life is to the universal mind what the dream is to the individual ego. So when you go to sleep and you dream, that's you interacting with your subconscious mind. In other words, the tree of life is the dream of the universal soul. When the universal soul sleeps, it's speaking to itself through this little network. That's why whenever you dream, if you locate the symbols in your dream, you can find out where you were on this tree. I recently dreamt about an orange room and a library full of books. Guess where I was? Odd. Right? This is how you decode your dreams. You look at the symbols and you analyze the force behind the symbol. So if you visualize, you know what I'm saying, somebody robbing a bank, that doesn't mean that you're going to walk into a bank robbery. That means something to do with the transference of money. You feel me? The energy behind it. I'll tell you an interesting story that happened just yesterday. Synchronicities were absolutely off the chain. I'm talking about back to back to back during the thought. And that's something you'll find that happens when you work with this. The synchronicities are going to ramp up insanely. But anyways, my cousin came over, we're standing outside and we're talking about the Matrix. And he was asking me to like break down what it meant whenever those dudes were on the ship looking at the screen, looking at just the ones and zeros, ones and zeros, ones and zeros. He's like, what are they seeing? And I was telling him about force and form. Ophiel talks about when you get past the higher astral, it's very difficult to survive there. Form, even your astral body. So if you're going into the realm of pure force, you have to become force. But anyway, behind everything is a force. When those dudes were looking at the screen on the Matrix seeing ones and zeros, they weren't seeing actual forms. They were reading the forces that were around. They were reading the current of energy. That's what we're studying with the Kabbalah. So I gave him an example. I'm like, let's say, for example, I'm reading the screen and I see an energy of a black car. It's moving fast. It's coming towards us. I'm seeing the energy of food. It looks like it's a delivery of food. You know what I'm saying? Oh, it looks like there's going to be a DoorDash that's pulling up around the, you know what I'm saying? It will work like that, like they're a mystic, like they're looking at a crystal ball. How about as soon as I finished saying that shit, DoorDash pulled up. My brother had called and ordered some fucking Popeye's chicken. Wow. Wow. So in me giving that example, like I literally demonstrated that shit. But this is what we're doing here. We're learning about the forces behind these forms. You might say unicorn, but like homie said, there's a force behind this. You and me wearing gray hoods.
So it's like it's an illusion. It really is an illusion. It's not what we see. It's something else.
Right. Right. We don't look on the world of form. That's the illusion, like you said.
If I can just share something real quick, how you said the ones and zeros, an ancient divination system that you can use if you want to read the ones and zeros is cowrie shells, because you have this, you have the one side that's closed, and then you have the other side that's open. That's the one, and that's the zero. So when you deal with Ifa or Kindomble or Kimbanda and stuff like that, and they're throwing shells or they're throwing particular things, what they're doing is just reading the algorithm of the spirit. So what spirit is just energy. It has to communicate through symbolism. Our brain is nothing but this electrical thing that only communicates through vibratory patterns of symbols. So as you said with them unicorns, one day you keep messing around with them unicorns, the true energy, because you already tapped into it, but it's the rabbit hole going to keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, because the more you steer into the dark, something gonna come back. You're gonna find what you're looking for, and that's the whole thing with the black hole. That's why NASA and the scientists continuously keep looking into the sky. They're because most of them trying to find the beginning of everything. They want to know the beginning and they want to know the ending. There is no beginning, no ending, because we recycle. Energy doesn't end and energy doesn't begin. It is what it is. You know, but I just want to say, but that cowrie shells are zeros and ones. Tarot cards are nothing but fancy pictorial pictures of zeros and ones.
Yes. Yes.
It has to communicate to you in some kind of form.
And I know this might be a little bit out of not exactly what we're studying, but for anyone who is interested in tarot, maybe something to put in your Amazon shopping cart will be this guy here. And it is the Kabbalistic Tarot. This actually breaks down how the tarot cards relate to the paths on the tree of life in the Sephirah. It's a more accurate way of learning how to read tarot. More accurate. Now, you know, it isn't something that's like you have to get right now, but if you're curious about that kind of thing, I would definitely check it out.
That's why I love the Thoth. I use the Thoth tarot deck that at least the Crawley came up with.
Yeah.
First of all, it's a very difficult, and yeah, that's what it's a very difficult deck, but it's a Kabbalah. It deals with the Kabbalah, and that's why it's important to know Hebrew, because Hebrew letters are nothing but zeros and ones too. That's because the alphabetic letters represent numerals, just the same thing as the Sanskrit. Sanskrit letters also represent numerals. So the more we speak in numbers and through letters, you're tapping into the main frame of the cosmic universe, which is basically your undifferentiated self.
Absolutely.
So everybody should get high and tap in. As a joke. Ayahuasca, psychedelics. If you feel that you want to take it slow, then take it slow. But that's what shamans they call it walking into the crack. So when they take, as we say, getting high, they walk into the crack with particular chemicals that they mix with their chemicals, and they can separate matter. They make matter into energy, and that's how they communicate with deity, or actually become a deity.
Somebody in the chat asked, what's the difference between your higher self and a personal daemon? Well, I guess if you had to really put labels on these things, because we're dealing with different layers of self, the daemon would actually be very close to the higher self, except it's going to be below it. It's going to be more attached to your ego. It's going to be more attached to who you are as a person. It's almost like it would be an intermediary between your ego and higher self. It's an aspect of that higher self, but yeah, it's a step on the path, up the middle path. If anything, I would say that personal daemon would reside in Yesod, which is in the moon sphere.
So how would you go about integrating that shadow?
So the best way to integrate these things is, especially when you're dealing with intelligences, is by working with them to the point that you no longer see the separation. So when we talk about the higher self or your daemon or the Goetia, you work with them as foreigners. You don't know who they are. Sure, you might hear somebody say on a book or in a video, oh, it's just your energy, but you don't know that. You have to experience it. The more that you work with these entities, hopefully you're paying attention, because the more you're going to be seeing that it's been you all along, and you expand. As you absorb the 72 Goetia, you start working on these higher level aspects and you absorb them. But what you're actually doing is removing parts of yourself, what you think you are. You're removing those blockages and realizing that you are this whole structure. Does that make sense? Or does that clarify?
So basically what you're saying is you shouldn't run away from the Damien.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You should not run away from anything. There should be no fear here. Like fear, it may be an impulse, it may pop up, but it shouldn't be followed with resistance. It should be explored. Anything go ahead.
I was gonna say, so the more you resist the Damien, would that mean the more it tries to fight you in a sense?
Yes. I think the Hulk might be a good example. The more that you fight him, the stronger he gets. You feel me? Gives it strength. That's why I say embrace it, go straight into it. There is no enemy. I don't care about, oh, the cops doing this and shit. There's no enemy. The more that you resist, the stronger your so-called enemy illusion becomes. The more you open and accept and integrate this thing, and I don't mean go out and hug a policeman with a riot shield. I mean your idea of this dumb shit. The idea of this stuff, you've got to integrate it, come to terms with it, come to peace, balance it so that it no longer has power over you. That's how you integrate it. Beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing when you can turn on your media or your social media and you can walk away from it without being moved by it. Most people can't. How many of your friends, how many of their feeds are now hijacked by some type of social justice? All they're posting now is their weak minds have been taken over. I hope you see what's going on. I'm still posting about the same shit I was posting about 9 months ago, right? Some people, they've been pushed off course. If you realize that you've been pushed off course, no judgment, just bring yourself back to what's important, to what is actually relevant to you, what actually relates to your life right now. Self-improvement. But I digress. Winter, I think that was you, Winter. Did that answer your question?
It answered mine.
Cool. Who's next?
Real quick, can we, talk about what the Sephiroth is? I know that it's explained in the first couple of chapters in the Mystical Kabbalah, and I just want to know like more clarification on what that is, and break that down even more to the basic form.
As far as like what the definition of a Sephiroth is?
That and its use, yeah.
Okay, so essentially, I don't remember what part it was at, but she mentioned how they are focal points that you can focus your energy on, or focus your attention, and you can, in a way, connect with the energy that focal point represents. See if I can find it so I can say it exactly. Okay. The curious symbol system known to us as the Tree of Life is an attempt to reduce to diagrammatic form every force and factor in the manifested universe in the soul of man. So essentially, this Tree of Life, this group, the Sephiroths involved, are an attempt to categorize and sort of map out the soul and all the little connections and spider webs in between.
Okay.
And they're numbered, right? For example, the Tiferet, 6, the sun, the fire energy, it relates to all the 6s in the tarot, right? So swords, the wands, the pentacles, all that stuff. And since it's the sun, it also represents Leo, right? So when you see, what we're looking for is the force behind all those similar cards. They may be different, but they've got a similarity there. And that points to the type of energy that Tiferet represents. And the same goes for all the rest of them. It's a categorization symbol to understand the energies that we're working with. My brother want to know if I'm selling these unicorn pins. That would make sense, right?
Travis, is it all right if I was to just add a little something about the Sephiroth from the book I had showed?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, I'll read a part. Sometimes with this information, it's bad to start at a particular part because everything explains everything else. But yeah. I highlight. I got it says the word Sephirah, the singular form, has no simple equivalent in any language, although its root relates it to the words cipher, an example number, and sapphire. Some have seen the Sephiroth as divine powers or vessels. Others regard them as the instruments or tools of divine governances. Mystics have pictured them as the 10 faces, hands, or even garments of God. All agree, however, that the Sephiroth express divine attributes, which from the primal moment of emanation are eternally held in a relationship, a set of relationships until God wills them to vanish with the void into nothingness again. The relationship between the Sephiroth are governed by three unmanifest divine principles: the hidden splendors, or it's called the Zazahat, of primordial will, mercy, and rigor, or justice. Will holds the balance, while mercy expands and rigor constrains the flow of emanation, and so they organize the 10 divine attributes into a specific archetypical pattern. The pattern thus called forth is the model on which everything that is to come into manifestation is based. And it has been named the image of God, but it is more generally known as the tree of life. So basically, each Sephiroth in turn manifests under the influences of one of the Zazahat. And I mean, it goes on and is visualized as a zigzagging lightning flash, and but it's basically the Sephiroth are unmanifested divine principles, or that's what the zigzag.
Zigzag.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And in the Kemetic tree of life, they call them divine faculties. There was never no physical Aset or Heru or Sebek. They all just stand for particular latent forces that are within your being, that you can bring forth, or they're demonstrated through particular aspects. So if a person is segregative, like right now, this is the energy that's being demonstrated on the Kemetic tree of life is sphere 8, which would be on the 8th sphere in the Hebraic tree of life is, I actually forgot, but Quebec stands for segregative thinking. He's thoughts, ideas, beliefs, rationalization, or syllogistic logic. That's what Trump represents, left brain activity. If you separate your emotions from what he does and what he says, you will see him as a Sebekian. He's a Sebekian energy, meaning that he's a left brain vibratory energy that is that represents passive cognitive conditioning. That he demonstrates syllogistic beliefs and logic based off of his internal beliefs, and no sympathy, empathy, or antipathy. That's what he represents. Or he utilizes Sebek, who's also a worker of Set, or he's a Sethian, or as in the world of Star Wars, he would be a Sith. He's a Sith Lord. That's basically what he is. He's not a Jedi. He represents the uncontrolled free will of Heru, and the opposite of Heru is Set, or as it became known in Christian, Satan. So he's just that's what Sephiroth they represent. So this beam of light, or that emanates from what's called the Ein Sof. The Ein Sof is the in Kabbalah would be the Sahasrara chakra, which is above the Ajna, or the third eye. The Ein Sof is where the beam of light emanates or brings forth divine cognitive information that trickles down into sphere 1, which is Kether, which will be wisdom. And then it from wisdom, it has to empower itself through this divine knowledge, and boom, zigzag across the other side to Bina, which is knowledge. So, you know, so that's, and it's the same thing, even 5%, because I once lived as a 5%er. They don't even realize that the supreme mathematics is a tree of life. You go from 0 to 9. You go from knowledge, wisdom, understanding, culture, freedom, power, refinement, equality, God, build or destroy, and then you go to the ninth aspect, which is born, and then you have to go from born back to the knowledge, and that's what gives you 10.
Yeah.
So even on the tree of life, and I know Trav will get into teach that later, that each particular aspect of the tree correlates to another a sephiroth, so you can get the number 10. So each number has to correlate to another number, so it can recycle back into itself to add up to the divine mathematical correlations of from 0 to 10. Because the Ein Sof is 0 and Geb it represents 10. And like he said earlier, those are actually not Sephiroth. You are actually Malkuth, or you're the foundation of the trickle down effect of into densification knowledge, or from Azaluth into the lower Yitzhak.
So are you saying basically it's a the ultimate thing is a union, and once you have that union, you reach that place?
And once you reach union, the next step, and I know Travis teach it, the next step after union is nothingness.
Wow.
You only reach union to realize that I am not who I thought I was. I am everything and I am all things. So now I become no thing.
Yes.
I'm nothing. Union is still, and I think Travis mentioned it, that basically all of these Sephiroth, these are teachings for the planet. These are earth teachings. These are things because we forgot. That's why I'll go back to Adam and Eve. That's why he lied when he chose to blame when he asked, basically, didn't I tell you not to eat from the tree of life? What did Adam do? Adam said, well, the woman you gave me tricked me. And then what did Eve do? Well, the serpent tricked me. So what did God do? He goes to the serpent and now tells him, you're gonna crawl on your belly, and then he says that there'll be enmity between your seed and man's seed, and he'll always have his foot upon your head. That's basically carrying all the weight of physical information that's not light or spiritual information. So now when you correlate those spiritual teachings going into the New Testament with Jesus, that's why his thing was take my yoke. My yoke is easy, meaning that you be in the world, but you're not of the world. I and the Father are one. I didn't send myself. The Father sent me. So now when you question all of the religious aspects, well, why I got to go through you? Why can't I just go straight to the Father? See, that's the trickery game of the illusion of getting caught in the whole trickle down Malkuth.
Well, that's one aspect of it, though. That's one aspect of it, because again, I like to really stay away from them versus me, because that leads to many traps. But when we talk about you have to go through the Son to get to the Father, we're back at the tree of life. Because look, you literally have to go through the Son to get to the Father. It is through Tephareth that we can even conceptualize God.
Yeah, absolutely right. And Heru is the Kemetic version of Jesus Christ.
Yes.
Because Heru is actually the reborn son of Asar. Because Asar was killed by Set, his brother, and he was chopped into 14 pieces and cast all over the place, which is nothing but a symbolic story of the separating of the being in touch with the Most High Supreme God, and that story is a symbology of the splitting into multiple religious factions. So when they brought him back together, Isis in the Greek, or Set in the Kemetic language, he is reborn Heru. So you're absolutely right. The sun, which is also when you correlate that to the chakra, that's why it's in the center. That's actually the solar chakra, which is your sun center.
Is that what Israel or Israelite mean?
But those are just three different terms brought into one to denote a group of people who follow Abrahamic or a Hebraic way of life. So that's actually coded. That's a whole nother thing. That's actually coded language right there. Israel. Those of the Most High.
Okay, now touching back on initiation into hermetics, did everybody get a good understanding of the quadrupolar magnet?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yep.
Yeah, that thing was confusing. I tried to look it up, but there's like nothing. There's nothing.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Like when I was like trying to comprehend that was really confusing for me.
Okay, would anybody like to just say what you've got from that part, at least when you think of the quadrupolar magnet? No.
I feel like it deals with the elements. Could be wrong though. I'm trying to find it in the book, so I can.
In the book, it is. The book, they start talking about this thing on page 29, I think. It's in that whole area where they're talking about the elements. But yeah, essentially the quadrupolar magnet is the usage of these four elements. It's in using them. Honestly, I think that Siren Key put a comment in the chat, because look, check it out. The four elements and the tetragrammaton, Yod-Heh, Vav-Heh, the four worlds of life, it all correlates and points to the same thing, the demiurge, right? It's the same thing, four-step process of creation. And if you guys were with my book readings of Ophiel, we've gone over that multiple times. Trying to go back to what you said, Siren Key, about the four worlds. But it's, yeah, here we go. She said that Atziluth would be the urge or the desire to sit. Bria would be the idea to make or acquire a chair. Yetzirah would be the chair building schematics. And then Asaya would be the completed chair. So essentially, we're going through a four-step process of you have the desire, then you get the idea to move on that desire, then you have the actual mechanism of putting it all together and building it, and then you have the completed process, at the four-step process of creation of the universe, of everything that exists here. So essentially, the tetrapolar magnet is a visual aid of what that's all about. As you can see here, this is an actual picture of the tetrapolar magnet. All right. I wondered for a long time why it was that Franz Barton assigned the elements to different directions than I'm typically used to, right? We always have air at the east and fire to the south, but he switches water and earth. And he does that because he's lining these all up to polar opposites. And I know you guys may have seen this diagram before, but this is actually the tetrapolar magnet. And the whole thing about this is you've got these four elements and how they interact with each other. Fire itself is dry and hot, but when you combine fire and air, you start to, air is the what happens when you have dry and hot together, right? Now, on the other side is water. The aspect that air takes from water is the wetness. So air becomes wet and hot. You see what I'm saying? Basically, again, these are not the actual 4 elements, but the qualities expressed by these elements. So when you're working on your meditations and directing your consciousness, eventually, this tetrapolar magnet is going to attract certain things. The red and the blue on the outside here, that represents electric and magnetic. But anyway, these are just focal points that make things happen. Focal points to concentrate on certain attributes. And the whole thing is, and we're going to learn the process through these books. You know, it can easily just sound like we're talking mumbo jumbo, but you're going to learn the process through this book. But essentially, like I said before, it's not the quantity, it's the quality of your meditation. When you focus strongly enough on a certain element or a certain aspect, you can tell that it's working by the quantitative effect that it has on reality. That's how you can gauge how powerful it is. If I sit here and I visualize and I focus on something, and all of a sudden somebody else is experiencing what I visualized, and I did this intentionally, that shows the quality of my focus, the quality of my consciousness, the quality of my meditation. You see what I'm saying here? So it's not just like, you know, Brother Panic used to say this: if there's no effect, the magic didn't work, your spell didn't work. If I sit here and I visualize and I meditate on a unicorn, all of a sudden all these people are like, well, damn, I just saw a random unicorn just now. And it's like specific. That is the effect of my cause. And that's the type of thing that we're going to learn here. How to make effects based on your intentional cause. What makes all this easier is having an organized system of work. That's why the Kabbalah is so effective. It's an organized system of directing your consciousness. So yeah, the tetrapolar magnet is another organized system of understanding how the elements work together.
Trav, how do you think that? You just made me think about something, man. The summer solstice and the winter solstice.
Yeah.
You think that kind of correlates with that energy of, you know, being cold and ardent and hot? So you have winter, spring, summer, and fall.
Absolutely.
So, you know what I mean? That just made me think about the 4 seasons, and then how each in between the seasons they go through their unfolding of the moisture into the hot. Like right now in Florida, it's the rainy season, so it's giving it to us right now. But then you know, so that just really made a lot of sense what you just said, man.
But check this out. It all has correlations, not only the seasons, but we're talking about the 4 angels, or AKA the 4 fixed zodiac signs. Right? And I would notice how sometimes they would be put in different orders. It's because they're going off this pattern of the tetrapolar magnet. You got your Leo.
What is this book that you're holding up? What is that?
Oh, this is a secret book. I can't dive.
Okay. I noticed how your hand was covering the whole time.
A Barden comes handy.
Man. Damn, that just sparked a huge thought to me right now about that. That made perfect sense. Yeah, that was good. That was good.
It's corresponding. Same thing with the day. You got daytime, nighttime, but you also got dusk and dawn in between that too.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
So now, looking at all these correspondences, you can start to get an idea of how can I use this to my advantage. It also relates to the moon, right? What you're doing is, if you want a particular thing to happen with the fire element, guess what? You're gonna have to do it at noon. It'll be best if you did it in the summer. It'll be best, you know what I'm saying? You want to line up all your correspondences. If I'm facing the south, you want to line up all the correspondences, because here's the thing: you're not trying to force the universe to bend to your will. That's ignorance. Magic is not forcing the universe to do anything for you. Magic is getting in alignment with the universe so that it can be effortless. The Christians called it sweatless victory, right? So essentially what you're doing by learning all these correspondences is you're lining yourself up to be in the right place at the right time to make the right thing happen. The right time is now, always, especially if you're in the center of this tetrapolar magnet. What's in the center? Akasha. When you're in the center, all you gotta do is turn to the left, turn to the right, 2 steps back. Cha-cha, real smooth. You know what I'm saying?
It
Turn
also
it
has
up.
to do with the astrological signs as well. They have particular, because even, you know, of course we know they deal with fire, air, earth, and water as well. You know, hot, dry, ardent, heavy, cold, dry, light, hot, wet, and so that's really interesting. That just made that just really made something really more. That just shed a lot of light on something for me, like lifted something.
Yes,
That's
yes.
good stuff. That's good stuff right there.
When all this shit lines up, it becomes so much easier. So much easier.
Damn, that made perfect sense.
Can I ask you something? So basically, like you said in the beginning, there's no such thing as an enemy or bad.
It's a perception. It's a perception. Like who is my enemy? Who's my enemy?
Someone that tries to harm you.
Someone that tries to harm me. Well, if I'm looking, so on one hand, I'm in a world looking at every person as a person with their own individual will, right?
Mhm.
Yes, and there's an enemy. But if I'm living in a world where I understand that every literal thing that I experience is only a symbol of an energy, this person ain't my enemy. He's a representation of an energy that I'm dealing with on the inside. Just like this Zoom chat, just like these unicorns pins, the cars outside, the weather, all this shit is just a symbol of something that I'm personally dealing with. I don't change that man by going out and punching him in the face. I change him by dealing with how I perceive him. He's got nothing to do with how I perceive him. There's people that consider themselves my enemy, and I don't know about that, nor do I care. But you know what? They can't do anything to me because they get dealt with by their own energy. I mean, I don't want to sound cocky, but what did Kanye say? Anyways, hating on me is like hating on God. Because I'm in my path doing my thing. I'm in the center. You're not going to push me off. So by you coming against a force that's centered, it's like you're punching a brick wall. You're only going to hurt yourself. If you have that mindset, how can you have any enemies? Who are you scared of? Who's, you know what I'm saying? Like that's what I mean.
It's because, yeah. I was gonna say it's because just the environment I grew up in. I grew up in, you know, the rough parts of life. So it's like when you lived in such a physical world with a bunch of physical people, a lot of things and people can become your enemy. But like you just said, who's your enemy?
Yeah.
That may be a part of your. That might be a part of your incarnation of why you remanifested here. You know, like two notes that I have from the Meta Netter books. Two things I remember. He said, we must learn to see that the problems in life have nothing to do with material problems and losses, but our emotional reaction of pain and stuff. So you can't change nothing that you've been through, what you experience, what you may be experiencing right now, but you can change your element, which is the reaction to what you're experiencing. So then the next thing is one must adopt a genuine attitude of accepting the wrongs perpetuated by others against one as necessary conditions for the generation of peace, wisdom, and spiritual power. So you're not going to have no spiritual power if you don't go through some sort of friction so you can maintain, or as Travis said, maintain your frame or stay in even keel. If everything throws you off or you become a fiery attitude, then you're not going to be balanced. You're not going to be the middle pillar.
Right.
You know, that's like Kundalini. You know, you have the Sushumna, which is the channel that the Shakti primal power goes up, but you have Ida and Pingala that spiral around that. You don't want to always be spiraling in and out of the faculties on the parallels. So you're experiencing the energy of this way, and now your left brain, now your right brain, when you're supposed to be balanced the middle pillar, as Israeli Rigaldi wrote. You know, he actually is a pretty good author too. He calls it the middle pillar.
Yeah.
So you
Good
basically
book to
have
get.
to stay even keel or maintain your frame whenever something seeks to take away your inner peace. All you know, like Gandalf. I'll use him as an example. When he told that fire dragon, "You shall not pass," he maintained his stance. That was, and he was speaking Heka, which is words of power. You know, you shall not pass. You know, and then he had to go through that, because then he became what? He became Gandalf, because first he was one Gandalf, then he became what, Gandalf the White or something like that after that. So basically, what we all have to do, and Trav, you know, he said it before, you basically have to die. You have to submit to that primal energy, which can be, they put many forms, Kali Ma. You have to let Kali chop your fucking head off. Yep. and then you, which is basically submitting yourself to realizing that you are not attached to material items. Boom. or the physical conditioning of your earthly experience.
Yes. You know, all these people that want to do this guided meditation for how to do this, that, and the third, try that one out. Try that meditation where you get killed, you know what I'm saying, by these entities. I did that not on purpose, I guess inadvertently is the word, when I thought that I would jump straight to the clip off without working the tree of life. And that's exactly what happened to me. It tore all my shit apart. But you know, I stuck with it. And I'm glad I did, because I realized what it was about. I had to have those things ripped away from me that I thought was me, so that I can be rebuilt again. Rebuilt without being attached to those things. Enough, that was when I first bought Nish, what's this book called? Mystical Kabbalah. I jumped straight to the clip off chapter and thought I was gonna do that. No, buddy.
What's the name of this guided meditation?
I believe it's called Chode meditation. Chode, CHOD. It's a occult Buddhism, dark side of Buddhism. I thought that was pretty interesting. I had to dig real hard for this, but it's a guided meditation where you go to hell essentially, and you allow these demonic spirits to rip the flesh off your bones, to devour you, consume you, pulverize you into nothing. And you know, you try your best to feel these things in your astral body. And what it actually is a purifying fire. Geez, if I could link it to
Samurais did that. That's what samurais, they visualized their death every day. They visualize, as Travis said, being torn apart by wild animals, lions ripping your head off, ripping your throat open, having your arms cut off and stuff like that. So now when you face some sort of trouble, you have no fear of death, because you've already died already. Right. They actually have a saying that says you're supposed to die before you die. So all of us are actually supposed to die already, and then we just the second death is not a death. It's basically your energy is done here, and you just go on to your next level of ascension.
How many so you're saying you're supposed to kill yourself every day?
You don't really have to kill yourself.
But you know, the concept is removing that fear of pain. Because here's the thing, I randomly popped this question on people. I did it just yesterday. You know, real talk, are you afraid of death? And oftentimes people will hesitate. They might even, you know, play it cool. Nah, I ain't afraid of death. I'm just, you know, trying to get to the next level. But ultimately, most of us we're either afraid of the pain of dying, or we're afraid of the unknown. Now, the pain, that's easy. You know what I'm saying? Just like I said, do a meditation like this, or actually experience some pain in your life. Stop running from pain. Feel that pain and get through it without any crutch. Do that enough times, you'll no longer be afraid of that pain. You've got to cultivate such a mind that you can, like we've been saying, maintain your frame no matter what the outside circumstance is. How to be ready for anything in any situation. If I died right now and it's like, oh shit, hell is real, I'm not gonna be panicking and crying and pissing my pants. I'm gonna go back to everything I've learned and figure out what's the next step. You gotta have such a mind that's ready for anything.
I think the first step towards that is realizing. You have to realize, you have to recognize. Once you know that, because it's not a day's job. Once you know that, then you start putting your steps forward towards complete and auto detachment. Although that's a very difficult thing to say, complete and total detachment, because we live in the physical world. But now it must have, if it doesn't have already, you know, a significance, important significance in your subconscious, in the back of your mind, that whenever you see anything, obviously, may it be family issues, may it be personal issues, may it be society issues, obviously the first glance with the physical eyes, or the first minutes or hours upon apprehension, it could put you in a perplexed state of mind, etc. And that's because you did not recognize, or you didn't realize. Now you're beginning to know things. And like I said, when the gentleman was giving the explanation of all he was saying, it was just like he was printing my thoughts out in paper, like illustrating it. So nice. For me, it just gives me this thing of like, when you realize now the things that would piss me off before, I never give a damn why anyone or whoever or anything, even if it wasn't pertaining to me, I never ever gave a damn why anyone was reacting anyway. But I always just thought, being the human being that I know I supposed myself to be, and from the aspects I operate from generally, I always found it weird that people behaved differently. But the thing about it is, obviously, when we learn these patterns, we learn that those people are, like you say, mirrors of ourselves. So they have to act differently in order for you to realize how to act accordingly. So by the time you're picking up fights with them, or you're getting into conflicts, you're actually trying to play the conversion game, which is not your job to do. So basically, you're dispersing your energy where it's not meant to be, because it's letting you miss out of the now. So once you realize it from this perspective, you begin to, what was that word that you said? An organized system of directing your consciousness.
Yeah.
So it's all about, you know what the problem is with society? I am so glad that after all of these years of using social media and whatnot, I came across you. Not because, and I also think it's timing, because every other year I never came across people who shared this kind of information. So I think it was the time for me to get access to this kind of information. And I think what is wrong with society is, obviously, at this point in time, what I've come to realize is the education. We've been taught bullshit. So
yes,
you've been taught bullshit. So obviously, even when you're trying to talk sense to someone, nobody wants to believe you. So you have to come to a point of realization of yourself. And that comes with always mirroring yourself. Also, always, what the hell?
Uh-oh.
Sorry. I don't know why my intercom is ringing. Anyway, mirroring yourself, trying to maybe get a deeper understanding, and also maybe just generally, I think is what you want for yourself, sometimes how you see yourself always gives you I think that already gives you a perspective of how you magnify yourself, how you see yourself to be. And how you see yourself to be, you are not a thing, because you are not attached to anything, but at the same time you are everything. Self-realization, and you'll be fine.
And it's steps to this same goal, steps to the same place. I love it, man. I love it. Fideo, I know we talked on Thursday. You were reading ahead just a little bit. Did you have any specific questions about the text? Or any specific comments that
as of Thursday, I was more ahead on the mystical Kabbalah. So now I've lately just gotten into the initiation of the Hermetics, and I think I am at the point where she's explaining. I don't know if it's she or he, but the author is explaining. I've just done with the elements. Now he's talking about man, and up until the point of the certain how the elements are in certain parts of the body. I don't know how. Let me say it this way. Maybe I don't know if I'm making any direct sense, but it was kind of like saying there are 4 energies in the genitals. There's this and that, blah 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 blah. I was at that.
You can't be focusing on the genitals, man. No, we gotta.
No. That was, I think, the last thing I read. That was like the last thing I read. But I was already done with the elements. I was already reading the verse where you had man, and basically giving the details. Now you know me, Travis. I'm not the one to come in with the lines. Already I don't have the book in physical form. I'm still waiting on my delivery for Mystical Kabbalah. But if we were doing if I had hold on, let me see. If I had the PDF right in front of me, I would go straight up to the part where I'm trying to point out to you. However, it's such an interesting factor that when you come on to the meetings, the plethora of questions that you had in mind, but you didn't really have the mumbo jumbo to put it together, or you didn't really think of how you were going to present it, or you were still kind of like thinking of it like, is it a possible question? Someone comes along and asks this question and it gets answered, and then we also get like a plus of further illustration of where we haven't even gotten into yet. So I think I'm fine.
Cool. Moving right along. That's actually you're caught up to where we are. So yeah, you're on the right track.
All right, thank you.
Does anybody in the chat have a question about the text that we've read so far in the YouTube chat? Oh shit, it's been over 2 hours. I didn't even realize that. Homie was spitting hot fire, just made time stand still. The principalities of prowess.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you again for everybody that talked today. That shit was powerful as fuck.
Yes. Hell, I learned some shit.
I second that motion.
Thank you, Trav, for being a gracious host, for letting me blab. I can be like Uniblab, man, you know.
There's a lot of good information you blabbed out, though.
Right, bro.
Seriously.
I like
That's
that.
the difference. It
I
was
like
on
that.
point. It was on point.
Yeah.
It was adding to the convo. It wasn't just you trying to sound smart. You were adding, so I'm all for that.
And not only were you on point, but you actually were taking us along with you, like on a voyage. We could actually picturize some of the things you were saying. Like I said, it was kind of like you printed out how would I say? Let me put it this way. I hadn't even gotten up to this point, but at the very initial stages when I was figuring some stuff out, I had already made this kind of like rough sketch of everything you said. But the more I started getting involved, and Trav would encourage you, be like, even if you read like just a paragraph per day, or try to dedicate 20 minutes and something like that, because I learned faster like from the manner you were speaking, rather than sitting down and actually going through line by line.
Yeah.
But most times when I learned the way you explained, I'm telling you, I'm the kind of person like all you explained, I wasn't only just listening to you, but at the same time, it was kind of like I was dissecting, and I know I would continue to like every word and every kind of silent metaphors that in those expressions that you were where you were talking, although they are facts, but the way you presented them to us makes it very I wouldn't say not palatable, but easy to digest. Very easy to digest. Like I said to Trav, it's a lot of people that I listen to that speak exactly just like you. I have my own personal thoughts of the similitudes of how, without even knowing about the construct of the Kabbalah or anything else, I had already came to those conclusions already. But like Trav, when I came into this group, I learned that when you have thoughts like that and you don't act upon them, or you don't take them seriously, that's what it's called self-doubt.
Right.
Because you're not listening to yourself and stuff like that. So just to say, like, we talk a lot about confidence and stuff like that, like what you think is confidence because of how you appear and how you project yourself to the world, like your physical actuality. But at the same time, the confidence that is actually going to make you a boss is this confidence right here. Because this is the confidence that it's not like you're being in selfish mode, but now you're not being puppetized.
Yeah.
Right. Your thoughts
you're not being puppetized. And whatever happens, yeah, you might cry about shit. Yeah, but you wouldn't spend 40 days mourning stuff anymore. You give it a little time and then you're over it real quick because you need to get back into alignment. We're not going to be like, oh, you're not going to react if your aunt or maybe your mom got passed away. But then you have a better understanding. You're not going to go into depression because you no longer have your parents or this or that. The things that people go through and they don't know the reasons why, the consequences. I don't really get I've not really gotten into too far deep in, but at least now you kind of get like what's it called, like a table of contents you already have like the instructions. So it gives you more like I don't know, somewhere in the my microphone is muted.
Oh,
No, we
hold
can
up.
hear you.
I
We
got
can-
somebody in the chat with a question. I want to answer it because they're about to go.
Okay.
This was who was it? Not John. Somebody. James. That was it. James. James was asking about the cold shower part of exercise 1. How one of the things for the physical training of the physical body, Franz Barton suggests that you take a cold shower every morning. And he asks, why is the cold shower necessary? Well, the whole thing is, just like what we talked about with this meditation on death, it's suggested in some books that you do this every day, but also think about the occupation. Homie said that these were samurai, so their job was to go out and kill and eventually die. So for them, it was an everyday ordeal. For you and me and regular people, we don't need to be doing that often because we might actually manifest into it. But as far as the cold shower aspect, Franz Barton recommends doing this every day, but looking at what he's actually saying is he's trying to get you into a routine where you start your day and you actually cut yourself on. You actually rejuvenate, you activate yourself. So what happens when you get in a cold shower first thing in the morning? It's going to wake you up better than a strong cup of coffee or a Red Bull. It's really going to kick you in the ass. So the whole thing he's doing here is prompting you to have a morning routine, because routine is a big part of these next 10 steps. But he's trying to prompt you into a physical routine to jumpstart your body into action, get the blood circulating, because he's talking about scrubbing the face and washing your body and all that stuff with intention. Cold shower kick you into gear. So that's what.
Marcus Aurelius also recommended doing that too. Is if you read the meditations of Marcus Aurelius, he speaks about that, and it's basically taking yourself out of our comfort zones. We have, us moderns, we have a lot of comforts that we've become accustomed to. Right now, we can go to the kitchen. I know y'all have food, quarantine snacks all over the place. You can go in there and go to the store and think about how much abundance that of things that we have. I'm sitting here right now. I have 2 cell phones. I have my iPad, a MacBook, lights, and just all comforts of everything right here. And then you have to, sometimes you got to detach from these things and you have to go take a cold shower. That's what fasting is important. Self-denial. Don't have sex with your girl. Don't have sex with yourself. You know, you have to you have to get rid of all the comforts, because to be able to empower yourself to become whatever we label the magician, you have to be in control. And basically comforts are taking it back to the elements. That's why the Sphinx is misunderstood by most people. The Sphinx is actually an outward symbol of submission, putting yourself under submission of the lower beast within yourself. That's why the body is like a lion's body, but it has the head of a man. The head is actually, that's why the nose is off, but the head actually was a hermaphrodite. It symbolized male and female. So it's attentiveness. So the head is facing in an upright position, meaning that it's aware of itself, and the body of the beast being placed in a restful state, meaning that I have subdued my lower self. You can't kill your lower self, but you can place it under submission. That's why you can't kill. Like, we know they have things called ego death that can be misconstrued, because you can't kill your ego. If you kill any part of yourself, you kill your whole self. So what you can only do is place yourself under submission. And as the guy was saying that, I appreciate what he was saying, but I'm no different than anyone else. As we're all staring at the screen, the only thing that we're experiencing is ourselves. So as we are in this box or we're in these cells represent the cellular structure of what's going on within you. So all you're seeing, so I'm looking at Melissa and Key and Veronica and Winter. Those are all faculties that are already within me, and each particular persona represents a part of my inner tree of life. So as we get to know each other, only thing we're doing is getting to know ourselves. So that's why the information that we all share today made perfect sense, because it's already in you. That's why they had to write these books, because the books are not about intellectual knowledge. It's basically about reawakening what you already got, and that's the whole akasha. The information already exists. It just takes sometimes you need a jump start, you know, to actually get it going.
Yeah. I love it, man. You are extremely on point.
Even with this, you just give more clarity again.
But you already got the clarity. So only thing
that's what I'm saying.
Clarifying your own self. You know, all I'm doing, my voice is nothing but your inner voice. So the more you study this stuff, the more you eliminate the you. There is no you.
Yes. I know.
You know what I mean? There is no
I
me.
know.
There is only is.
You know, the thing is, all that you're saying, like I said, thoughts that I have in my mind, accumulating information, but when you don't realize and don't recognize. Now, realize and recognize in this sense is you have just broken it down to me. Like, you know, when they say we are water, you've broken it down to me because it's the same flow. We all breathe in the same air.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when you explain it this way, and when we're talking about us being mirrors of ourselves, everyone you meet is a mirror of you. So when you break it down this way concerning the knowledge you're sharing and giving me the playback of it to let me know, I am the one transmitting the message to you, but I am you.
Yeah.
To let you realize, you know, even if you weren't here today, if you were supposed to be someone like Michael, or if you were to be Travis himself, or maybe Jay is still myself. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the thing is, I have come to a certain level of realizing that, but I'm still very freshman. And at the same time, I have come to that realization without having a second ear to tell it to. So when I say it like this here, and when you're coming with this explanation, which generally, if you're listening to somebody else, there is not this intimacy of interviewish, you know, kind of flow that makes you get it on a clearer picture. So then it's kind of like another weight over your shoulder.
Yeah. That's why it's good to always read out loud so you can hear yourself read. That's because, like I said, going back when you study the etymology of words and you study the word persona, it basically means through sound. So you are only you're just like a trumpet. We just blow the air through ourselves so we can funnel it back through our auditory system so it can vibrate within us and activate the hidden knowledge that's already within. So that's basically like, you know, you go into these meditations, and you know, I was always a person that believed that you have to go into the basement before you go into the attic, because the basement is where you've stored all of this, all your junk, where you thought that, you know, you had to get rid of this, you had to hide it, you had to get. So the more advanced, or the more you study this, you'll see that you will have to eliminate shame, guilt, anything that you've been attached to, because you can't be attached to anything as you ascend up the ladder to a higher level. That you are not anything. Just like you said that you was like you're a beginner. You have to even begin to stop speaking like that. You can't speak because words have vibratory power. So even though you may have not meant that you're a beginner, you still spoke that within your cellular structure. So that just vibrated and permeated through your whole system. So you can, you're just saying that you're just getting clarity on things that you've already known, and you're hearing it outwardly spoken, just no different if you were reading out loud.
And the piggyback off of that, like that's what I did when I was reading, was reading it out loud, and then also like take out your phone and record it too, so you can go back. Just like when you taking notes, you can you hear yourself, you're sounding out the words, you're figuring it out, so it's all coming from your own mouth, your own force.
So that's like I said, I've been watching Trav for a while. And I knew something was about him, because I remember your videos. In the beginning when I got caught onto your videos, you used to sit at the table and you kind of were speaking about Brother Panic, and then I was like, is this a student of Brother Panic or something? So then as you progressed, I noticed you got away from that because you started blossoming into your own. So the more we continue to give someone else something, we're not giving it to ourselves. So the whole thing. So when Travis started doing these book readings, that's the basic way, because what he's doing, that's ancient science. That when you hear someone, when you read together, you become a university. You become a you and I conversing. So
it's an academy.
So he's sparking your mind to first have an inner dialogue with yourself, and then you have an inner dialogue with him, and then you have an inner dialogue and an outer dialogue with everybody else. So now you become this cosmic whole. So it's just like a gel. Everybody is gelling together, because we're only in the westernized thinking, and which is erroneous and Romanistic, because that's how it was meant to be. We think we're smarter than what we really are. We think we're bigger than what we really are. We're nothing but a bunch of one-celled amoebas floating around in a petri dish of this whole cosmic jelly. So the whole thing is we're all just or just basically we're just blood cells going through a big vein. You know what I mean? Or we're just ocean. All those comparisons basically let us know that we're nothing. We're just one drop of water in the ocean of life, all, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the whole thing, once we begin to keep studying that more, you'll actually start shedding away all the perceptions. You become, as like I said, with the shamans and ancient culture, they only reason that they took psychedelic medicines and stuff like that was to answer specific questions for specific people. So they had to tap themselves in or go into the crack of consciousness so they can get a particular energy. And it's always like that, no different than in The Last Airbender, that he wasn't by himself. He was nothing but a vibratory pattern of the previous avatars. He was just reborn over and over and over again. It ain't no different than the movie Black Panther. He had to take the Amrit or whatever chemical from the purple flower, basically fucking die because they buried him, and then he go back and he talked to the ancestors. So he had to go into the ancestral realm to get the information to come back to the physical realm so he can be the Black Panther. Without them purple flowers, he wasn't nothing. So the whole parallel of that movie, the physical was the other guy, Killmonger, who was all physical. He'll kill you with the guns, he'll kill you with this, but he was a reflection of his past. That's why he still used that ancient system of scarification. That's why he was a warrior, but he was the new version, you know, just operating in a new dimension. And the Black Panther was still holding on to the ancient ways. So just like us, we're modern reflections dealing with ancient ways within the modern time. So we become the actual reflection. That's why, you know, how Trav said he was dealing with the Goetia, and you go directly into that because that's where you should begin. You want to associate yourself with the deepest, darkest, most badass demonic force that you can come up with, so you can get past this badass planet that we live on. You understand what I'm saying? So what you actually become, you don't just work with a spirit like the spirit lives over there on Park Avenue, some freaking where. You actually become the actual manifestation of whatever particular spirit that you choose to work with, or the
I have a question real quick,
or so on and so
about
forth.
Goetia. So I've like always had a more affinity to angels compared to demons. So when you say that,
you're afraid of
would it be
demons?
wrong? No, I'm not afraid of them. It's just like my whole life, I feel like I've been like surrounded by angels. Like I've talked to angels and stuff. And so would it be better for me to just go with what I'm like naturally more comfortable with, or should I just go to the demons?
Question, and I know you're not trying to travel to shut it down. How do you know the angels aren't demons that you've always been associated with? What gives you the implication that these are quote unquote angelic beings and that they're not demonic beings based off of that's the whole thing of being like attached to definitions. So we used to angelic being like a good or a positive energetic force, and a demonic being like this forceful being coming at you. So the whole thing is that you have to now maybe question that, because you might have always been working with demons coming in the form of angels waiting for you to experience their parallel self, because it's not a one side. You have to experience the both sides. You understand what I'm saying?
I knew,
if that
yeah,
makes
I feel
sense.
you. No, I dig it. It's like eventually, because I'm just getting into this lifestyle pretty much. And I was going to do the 72 Angels by Damon Brand and start to work with them. And then like once I got some experience in that, then I was gonna go back and do the Goetia. Travis, he talks about like a book with Lucifer and Angels of Magic is about path working or something like that. Yeah, I was gonna get into that after I like had some experiences with the 72 Angels that Damon Brand talks about. But yeah, I just wanted to, just
the clip off. The clip off is the root of the tree of life. So as above, so below. That's the whole thing. You can't deny one and accept the other. So you can't the Ein Sof is nothing but Malkuth turned on its head, because everything has to have a level of densification. Stones are nothing but materials that make up the four elements. That's why everything can be reformed through fire or water. Water dripping long enough on a rock is gonna make a hole in it. Fire, a stone put inside of fire long enough will break that stone down into smaller stones. So the whole thing, you have, just basically go into yourself and break down and question yourself. Meditation is not how it's always depicted, that we go into meditation for peace. Meditative practices is actually like it's like the Black Panther going under, so you can have a communication with the ancestors, and the ancestors are nothing. Once your family member die, they become a part of your etheric self. So because you don't, all you do is transfer your consciousness to another parallel universe.
Okay. Yeah. I don't know if this is true, but I like hear voices sometimes, and I feel like that's my ancestors talking to me. Because it'll be like something that I'm experiencing, and they'd be like, "Oh, you should try this, or you do this," and something like that. So, I don't know. I do feel like the ancestors, and I have experience with ancestors being a part of me, and we are all like the same thing. You know, they're connected. We're all connected into this one being who is now Joshua. You know, that's where I am right now on this plane of Earth. But yeah,
Absolutely. Because you just like what we're going to learn from hermetics is that there's at least 3 levels to existence, to life, to consciousness. There's physical, there's spiritual, and there's mental. So just like you've got that physical DNA, that physical data running through your veins right now, that data also has a mental and a spiritual aspect. Now, one thing that I've learned is you've got to be very hard you've got to try your best to not think in absolutes when it comes to the occult. So in other words, you've got to learn to exist in such a place where you can handle being in the unknown. Now, as this relates to what you just said, sometimes when you hear these voices, it's okay to not say, okay, that's the voice of my ancestors, or that's this, or that's that. Sometimes it's okay not to pin it to anything. Sometimes it's okay to just take it for what it is. It's a force that's communicating with you, and your subconscious mind is translating it into words, right? Now, we don't always know where the force is coming from, but generally we can feel if this thing is beneficial to us or if it's detrimental to us. But the main thing is to go off of that vibe, because that vibe, that feeling, that's not going to lie to you. What is going to lie to you is your conscious mind trying to put it in a category before you're ready to place it in a category. You feel me? So like if you're getting this vibration of advice, hey, maybe you should take this left turn, or maybe you shouldn't do that right now. That intuition is what it is, really. When you're getting that intuition, when you try to break it down left brain, that's when illusion starts to come into play. So sometimes you just roll with it. And over time, as you develop a relationship with that spirit, it begins to reveal itself to you. I've had entities that haven't revealed themselves to me until after the full 20 years. You feel me? I've seen what they look like. I felt their presence, but I never had a name for them until a few months ago. So sometimes it's okay to kind of just ride with it. You know what I'm saying? To experience it. Because the most important thing isn't to know exactly, to say it in left brain words. Sometimes it's just to understand how to move and flow, right? It's people who are amazing artists, amazing athletes, all types of amazing people, but they can't give a tutorial on what they do because they just understand it deep in the heart. They can't break it down. So you want to kind of get like that. You want to be able to move in uncertainty, but still maintain your frame.
So like just go with the flow, but still be in control.
Yes. And understand that eventually you're going to figure out everything. Eventually all the truth is going to come to you. Eventually it's going to come to you. What's important is that you're staying on that path. Don't let any of that stuff be a roadblock or
What to be
uh-oh. What was that?
Oh.
Okay. So I want to go ahead and bring somebody out here. Josh Brothers, how you doing?
I'm doing good.
Oh, you were gonna say something, Chengo?
I was just gonna say what gives a good example of us not being the body and our mind and our things is that the kid who was on America's Got Talent, Cody Lee. Did anybody see that? He was blind and he was autistic, but he's able to play the piano and sing so beautiful that it almost can bring you to tears. You look it up on YouTube, Cody Lee, and watch you see him. So when you physically see him, he's totally blind, he's autistic, he speaks, like an autistic individual. But when he played the piano and started singing, he went into a whole nother zone. So what he's able to do, he can play different instruments. He can sing and mirror the voices of them. He can sing in 4 other languages and stuff like that. But his physical self and his particular physical energy is what we call a severely autistic kid. So that right there shows you that we have abilities, latent abilities that we can actually tap into, so we could become a multiverse within our own individual self. So that's when we get away, and that's why, like Trav said, it's important to stay away from the broader world. The news has nothing for you.
Absolutely.
And the news stands for what? North, east, west, and south. So the whole thing is they're trying to bring up exactly.
Directing your consciousness. Check that out. Tetrapolar magnet.
That is. The news is magic to try to direct your consciousness away from the direction of your own self. It's a distraction. And if you really watch it, you will see that they play the same thing over and over. That's why they have it's called the Associated Press, where they use other news systems and associated with local news, and they'll show you pictures that don't have anything to do with the story and shit like that. So it's always magical shit going on. So once, like Travis said, you disassociate yourself with that, you'll be much better. You'll be like, you know what, that stuff doesn't affect me anyways. And then you can say, I can affect that stuff. So now you can become a high magician and practice high magic or high science, and you the one that's in control of that situation. You know?
Yo,
And it goes back to what you're saying. You got to be the cause, the causers of everything, and not be the effects and get caught up into that.
Yes,
and being the cause of everything is, that's that's fire, bro.
Yeah. Yes. But thanks a lot, Trav. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you letting me speak, and I appreciate being in the presence of everybody. And I guess what do? You do it every Sunday, correct?
A Sunday, 1 p.m. I was gonna have it for 2 hours, but you got to talking, you know what I'm saying?
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. It's good. This is valuable content.
Just tell me to shut the hell up, man.
This is good, man. People in the YouTube chat are really getting some value out of this as well. I'm just reading these comments. Everybody's loving it.
So I appreciate it, man. And I'm gonna end myself because I gotta take care of this little guy because he smells like a bucket of pee. So let me go and get him together. And I appreciate it. And hopefully we can all connect again.
All right. Thank you, Tango.
All right. Peace and power, everybody.
Cheers.
Yo, Vanessa, you said you had a question?
Could I get your 40 feet?
I wanted to tell Joshua about the angel. Okay, the 40 feet, like hard self-study.
The deal, the 2 large fries and
well, I can't hear you. It's like a lot of people talking.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Somebody place an order.
Sounds like somebody at the Burger King line.
I don't know, because I'm in my car, but I really wanted to tell Joshua about, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay, so there's this lady, her name is Rising Phoenix Aurora. She does past life regressions, and she also is all about angelic, everything angelic. She speaks on how the angelic energies match the ley lines. I can give you the website because I really can't talk right now.
Okay,
I'll
cool.
just place it on the chat better.
Sweet. Thank you so much.
All right.
All right, I'm gonna go back to my previous call out. Josh, you have anything you want to add? Been quiet the whole speech, man.
I know. I thought it was pretty crazy. Everything that everyone was bringing up answered all the questions that I had prepared. So
nice.
Yeah, there was so much good information. Yeah, I can't think of anything off the top of my head now.
Cool. Which one are you more interested in? The initiation into Hermetics, mystical Kabbalah, or both?
I mean, I have some experience with the Kabbalah. So with that, the mystical Kabbalah has been really interesting. I like how she breaks down even in the last chapter where she kind of reveals a lot of information about some of the thought patterns Crowley and McGregor had and everything, like where they got their stuff from, and she said that she's gonna kind of deviate and do her own thing regardless of what people think. She's just gonna put the information out as she thinks will benefit her readers. So I'm really excited. There's gonna be a lot of good stuff coming out of that. Initiation into Hermetics is pretty crazy. It's going so deep. It's really there's so much depth. Like I feel like because I'm reading it through a Kindle, and so I have like a highlighting feature, and I feel like as I swipe through the different pages, I almost am highlighting everything because there's like each other sentence has a phenomenal thing, and just like what other people were saying earlier, they were piecing together like different cultures and different philosophies that all kind of connect everything together, makes everything this beautiful landscape to really step back and like bask in it.
Yeah. Okay, talk about highlighting, man. My physical copy has the same setup. I'm gonna do unboxing number 2 now since you reminded me here. Uh-oh. What is it? It's a box full of 1,000,000 Sharpies, because these 2 books got me going ham.
These aren't unicorn Sharpies.
What's that?
You must got Amazon on speed dial, because your whole is one thing after another.
I love it. No, but these are gonna come in handy because I already went through 2 just since we started this. Oh yeah. Something that you said, Kenneth, about I was gonna answer, but I didn't get a chance to. Something about the next level, seeing once you get to the point where you're seeing things all as one, and then there's like a further step. But I think that they actually addressed that in that Ni Gong book. I don't know if you remember the part about that in there. Gosh, I don't remember exactly what you said.
I'm like, what specifically? I'm trying to follow as well.
There was
Ni Gong, like looking into it, I think there's 3 or 4 like steps between, like Ni Gong is like the final level, that is like the fighting, Qigong about hardening the body, being able to take blows, withstand blades and whatnot, while Qigong is more based off of the breath work and meditations. And then Wai Gong is the one before all that, where you're getting into it, you're getting into the mindset, and you're reading about it, and you're actually like getting into it first. So there's like kind of like that nesting pot where they all kind of fit into each other, and one level goes to the next level, and that level goes to the next level. But you need all 3 of them. You can't do Qigong without Wei Gong, and you can't do Ni Gong without the other 2. So it's the same whole thing.
Gotcha.
That book was hype, because the documentary touches. There's another documentary, I think it's called Ring of Fire. I think everybody's seen it. It's got one of the Qigong masters who sets a newspaper on fire and does like some crazy like steps, but that's the book of Java, or the Mages of Java, something like that. I haven't read that yet, but they touch on that as well, that it all, once you go through one level, you go into the other one and the other one, and it it's never ending.
Yeah. So that the way that flow works together kind of reminds me of initiation into Hermetics. It sounds like you've got a physical level you've got to master, you've got a mental level you've got to master, and you've got an energetic level you've got to master.
Exactly. And it's like you don't stop doing the meditations or the levels you use on the other two levels. You still need to keep that up, because if you stop doing it, your Nigong, like if you're trying to, get ready for a bout or anything martial arts or using things in the physical world, you still need to get your mind and your spirit right to get there, and still harness that. You can't jump to just Nikon because you're gonna hurt yourself. And the same whole thing, just in the Eastern practices.
Yeah, gotcha. Uh, 23 Dragon Leaf says, Trav, what was the Kabbalah book you recommended before? If you have not started studying the Kabbalah, then I would definitely recommend The Mystical Kabbalah by Dion Fortune, which is what this video is about, more or less. Let's see. I'm gonna see if there's anybody else here that I haven't heard from. Let's see. Mac G, you got a mic? Miss Kim Possible, I see you're hanging out with us.
Yeah, sorry, I was on mute here and I'm like getting my daughter ready for the day. I'm loving it.
Cool, Mickey D's. Somebody rememed one of my memes and they put the McDonald's sign over the Magus logo and it said, I'm loving it. I think it was supposed to offend me. They said I was spamming the group, but I was.
They called you a clown, Trav.
Right. Dustin, I saw him. Uh-oh.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Greetings.
Greetings. What's up? Finally got it slow at work a little bit. But yeah, good conversation. Like everything has been pointing me towards the Kabbalah lately. Like not only you, but like in other things I'm reading and I'll hear it. And just really glad to be here, honestly. Just one moment.
Rebel with a cause.
But yeah, would you mind reiterating what you said about integrating the shadow? I had a bunch of customers just then when you were answering.
Okay, so before we were talking about in the aspect of working with an entity, the daemon or whatever, but mostly when it comes to the spiritual aspect of those things, the more that you're working with it as a spirit, the more that the lines begin to blur between you and it as a separate thing. So the more that you're doing magic with it, the more that you're doing your telepathic communication with it, the more that you're just working with it in general, the lines begin to blur and you begin to see that it and you are the same thing. And once you do that, you internalize it and you can expand more. This is how you, what's the word? Self-deification, apotheosis, I think. This is really how you absorb all these entities. You're supposed to work with them to the point that the line becomes blurred. The alternative to that is falling on your knees and worshiping them. And that's not very much power. You can still get stuff done, but the price, the exchange is much heavier. Now, as far as your shadow aspects of your personality and like the shadow work, that's really being honest with yourself. It takes a lot of integrity, personal integrity. And honestly, the first exercise of initiation into Hermetics is dealing with the shadow work. It's dealing with you having to actually catalog and list out the parts of yourself that you consider negative aspects of yourself. You've also got to make a list of positive things. But the key to this working is you being honest. You really, it's called the magic mirror. You got to really look in this mirror and see, wow, maybe I am selfish. Wow, you know what? Maybe I am a bit closed-minded. You're going to have to really look at yourself. Wow, maybe I'm two-faced. Maybe I act like this in front of people, but when I get home, I do this. You got to be honest. And the more that you do that, the more that you can Go into those specific traits of yourself and start to balance them, start to sort them out, start to accept them, and then consciously become aware of when you're performing in those ways, to where it's no longer a habit. It's now brought into the light. It's no longer in the shadow. And the more that you do this, the less these negative traits have power over you. But getting through that process, it really helps you become a better person on all levels, and it gives you more control over yourself, because those hidden aspects of yourself, most of us are either trying to hide or we're unaware of, which means they become liabilities, they become vulnerabilities, they even become triggers.
Got ya. Got ya. That's really interesting that I think the Kabbalah is actually what I need to start with to kind of further it along. And because I was dealing with some shadowy aspects the past few days, somebody calling me like manipulative, and they never really point out those instances of manipulation. And so that got me wondering, like, I mean, with magic is like the key aspect is kind of, I wouldn't say manipulation, but kind of changing things for your favor. And a lot of that, I would say, involves, I wouldn't say hiding the truth, but introducing it piece by piece to yourself and others. So it's really interesting you brought this up, because I did have a dream last night, and I didn't realize that that was my shadow. I was reading Dharma before, and I could not focus on the pages when I was reading the book of Dharma. And I went to sleep and then had this odd dream. And
Yeah.
I don't know, I really know where I'm going with this, but yeah, the shadow work is kind of like an ongoing thing, it seems like. It seems to be new. Once you get to understand one shadow, you think you understand it all, but it keeps introducing like new aspects of it to you. So
right. It's not a process that
working
exactly ends. It's just maintained.
Okay.
And another level of that,
So
you talked about manipulation and working with magic. Isn't that manipulating other people and other things? What if the answer is yes? Yes, you are
yes.
manipulating other people in the environment. So here's the thing. That normally would make somebody feel kind of like, ugh, that's icky. I don't want to be a manipulator. Well, what if part of the shadow work is accepting that fact, right? That it doesn't give you an emotional reaction, because either you're going to be someone who is a cause or an effect. Now, manipulation doesn't equate to being, malicious or harmful to somebody, but it does equate being at a certain level of, being in the steering wheel as opposed to the passenger seat. In other words, you might even reveal to yourself that it doesn't quite sit right with you to have this power. So what does that point to? Maybe you think you don't deserve it. Maybe you think, different. You see how the rabbit hole can go.
Yeah, I definitely see it. And I guess it's one of the battles of claiming your independence as a person versus, serving your environment and serving others around you, and finding that balance. So, what was it? I had a specific question that I lost, but I'll find it once I'm off work. Probably message you or something for next week's conversation. But thank you.
Thank you. Homie said earlier about how this every experience is dealing with self. It's dealing with aspects of self. Every conversation. I mean, when people tell me thank you, I say thank you back, because we have equivalently helped each other. But also that points to the whole concept I have about no enemies. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're looking at another aspect of yourself. You're looking at the energy behind this so-called enemy. Just wanted to put that out there.
So, like, I know I've talked to you about seeing 333, but since then it's expanded, and I want to bring up the symbol of the triangle and geometric shapes, because 333, I was doing a meditation and on focusing on 333, and just getting 1 second. Okay, sorry about that. Meditating on 333, and then getting the triangle, and some words like discipline and other things. And I was just kind of wondering if you guys have any expertise on geometric shapes and their correspondences and their meanings, and like how you apply them yourself. I know I don't know if the Kabbalah teaches or goes into um, detail about that at all. That's all.
Trav, you're muted right now. Travis.
Oh, shit, sorry. But yeah, definitely. The geometric shapes do correspond with the different sephira of the tree of life. For example, Kether is a point. That's one. The line number 2 would be Chakma. The triangle would be Bina because that's sphere number 3. So if you keep seeing 333, if you keep seeing this aspect of the triangle, the energy behind Bina is manifesting to you in those symbols. So it would behoove you to maybe look into maybe the chapter on Bina, or just some things dealing with Saturn. How does Saturn relate to your astrological chart? That type of thing.
Okay. And also, when I do see it, it's always accompanied by maybe another number. So it's always like an effect 3377 or like a combination of that.
Yeah.
So if that correlates with like the third sphere
Yes.
in the 7-7,
No.
is that like a sequential thing? Or is it its own message? Is it like kind of saying a step-by-step thing, or is it, its own frequency? I can't, I gotta put it into words somewhere.
Yeah, it's most of the time it's its own message. But again, like I said to homie earlier, it is best to not try to think so much in absolutes, but kind of just flow with it. Because even right after you see it, it's on to the next. The energy is constantly changing. So it's just the more correspondences that you have in your library, the more things that you can relate them to, the more you can kind of just read it on the fly. Because that's where it's really important, on the spot. If you hold on to these things and they linger too long, you'll notice that things change. The same way in astrology, the stars are changing every second. But yeah, the tree of life is just one set of correspondences you can plug it into. There's infinite, so many.
Got ya. Thank you. And I need to check right now, but how much is the Mystic Kabbalah?
Nice. Somebody said he fell asleep. His wife's in the chat room now, just listening. That's funny. Okay. Who else we got? Katrina, how are you? All right. Well, anyone else who hasn't spoken up yet, you have any question or even an observation you'd like to add? Anybody else? Zacchaeus Steed, welcome aboard, my friend. Welcome aboard. Okay. Well, yeah. I guess that about sums it up for now. I've got the syllabus on the website as far as what we're going to be reading next. A little bit behind on the notes, but I'm going to be getting those up here before the next video. The notes for the first 2 sessions and tomorrow. But yeah, got the syllabus for the next few chapters. Please bring your questions and your subjects to talk about or whatever, so we can do this again. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you, Travis. Peace.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Travis.
you guys.
Catch you on
Appreciate you guys.
Thursday or whenever the next movie night is. Or
Yeah, we're gonna do that movie night.
we'll figure it out. Wednesday or Saturday is what it's looking like. So we'll see. All right. Peace.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you. Thank you. I think I'm about to do an Ophiel book. You guys in the mood for a we got Talisman Magic and we've got Art and Practice of the Occult. Let's see. I believe I can fly. Alchemy Gold is the same syllabus. But yeah, it should be on the YouTube member section. It's also in the on the website. It's the same syllabus.
Wait, are you gonna do the OPL book after these books, or I missed that?
Hell no, I'm going straight in.
Damn, son. All right. Like, I sorry, I missed that part because like first and over here. So when is this happening? Like,
I was just thinking about maybe doing another Ophiel book read just for like regular YouTube. I might do it tonight. I'm going on my 3rd day of not sleeping, so I probably should go to sleep. But yeah, I think I'm gonna do another Ophiel book this week. I got a hold of some of his private documents that were released that aren't being sold. There's not even a PDF of one of them. It's like 150
wow,
bucks.
I'm down for that. Just let me know when.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, hit me up on Messenger if you have any questions, or at least save them for next Sunday. But good to have you.
Ooh.
All right, everybody.
Did not know it was time.